Welcome to Fanfiction Uploads, your hub for anime audiobooks. Love anime and great stories? You're in the right place. Enjoy high-quality audiobooks from your favorite series, perfect for any time. Our professional narrations span various genres, from action to romance, with frequent updates for fresh content. Subscribe and ring the notification bell to stay updated. Connect with fellow fans in the comments and share your story requests. Thanks for joining us. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the anime adventures. Welcome to Fanfiction Uploads, where anime comes to life. On the Blue Sea, an island with several huge windmills stands on it. At this time, at the southwest corner of the island, a young man was lying on the beach. The cold touch from his feet from time to time made him slowly open his eyes. What came into view was the blue sky. The faint smell of the sea in the air made Xiachen a little confused. He couldn't help but mutter, "Where am I? I remember that I was hit by a dump truck to make a profit." After thinking for a long time, Xiachen still couldn't figure out what was going on now. And the more he thought about it, the more his head hurt, so he just ignored it. At least it seems that he is not dead now. Xiachen climbed up from the ground with his hands. But at a certain moment, he was suddenly stunned. He stared blankly at his feet. Then he touched his face in disbelief. What am I doing?" The reflection in the sea water under Xiachen's feet was not a young man in his 20s who had experienced many hardships, but a boy of about 16 years old, full of vigor and vitality. It was exactly what he looked like when he was 16. Just when Xiachen was still immersed in the fact that he was getting younger, a voice came from his mind. Ding! The host is detected to be in the Plot Island Windmill Village, and the Plot Island check-in system is successfully activated. System. Xiachen's already confused head was even more confused now. Why did he suddenly get a system? He is not dead, right? Suddenly, Xiachen seemed to realize something. Windmill Island? He only knew a place called Windmill Island. This can't be the place he thought of, right? Thinking of this, Xiachen couldn't help but sweat on his head. At this moment, the voice of the system came again. "Host has arrived at the Plot Island Windmill Island, do you want to check in?" "Yes." Xiachen answered subconsciously. "Check-in successfully. Congratulations to the host for obtaining Animal System Mythical Beast Human Fruit Monkey King form. No side effects version. The fruit has been stored in the system space, the host can extract it at any time. Okay, no escape." The moment Xiachen saw this information, he was able to confirm that he had indeed come to the world he had guessed before. One Piece world. To be honest, if he knew that he had come to such a place before obtaining the system, he would have been panicked to death. This world is not as peaceful as seen in anime. There are vicious pirates and hypocritical and righteous navy here. And those disgusting pigs, celestial dragons. Maybe at any time, a sudden disaster will come and send him away again. But now, that's different. The experience of countless predecessors who traveled through time with systems made Xiachen not panic at all. He has a system, what is he afraid of? And Xiachen's mind moved, and a golden fruit instantly appeared in his hand. Human fruit Great Sage equaling Heaven form. Xiachen is very familiar with who the Great Sage equaling Heaven is. This is a character he has always liked in his previous life. Great Sage equaling Heaven Sun Wukong. Just based on this name, there is no need to say anything else. This fruit must be a god-level fruit. Sun God Nika is awesome. Sorry. Even if you cultivate to become a god, you are just one of the 100,000 heavenly soldiers and generals who can stop me. And it has no side effects, which means that it will not have a fatal weakness like other fruits. Restrained by sea stone. Thinking of this, Xiachen was a little impatient. He took a big bite of the fruit in his hand. The sweet and delicious juice burst on Xiachen's taste buds. Xia Chen, who was ready to eat shit, was a little stunned. Hey? Isn't it said that this thing tastes worse than shit? Could it be that the side effect-free version also eliminates the bad taste? After thinking about it, it seems that this is the only answer. In this case, Xia Chen just ate it in big mouthfuls. If it really tasted worse than shit, he would just take a bite. Now it tastes so good, he must eat more. After all, he is very hungry now. After a while, Xia Chen sat on the ground with his hands on his stomach. Don't say it, this fruit doesn't look big, but it's very filling. Not long after sitting down, Xia Chen felt a surge of energy coming from deep in his body, constantly transforming his body. This process lasted for about 10 minutes. When everything was settled, Xia Chen felt the power coming from his body. He couldn't help but clench his fist. He felt as if he could blow up a mountain at this moment. But in a blink of an eye, Xia Chen smiled bitterly again. Although he has become much stronger, he is hungry again after finally filling his stomach. It seems that he has to find something to eat first. Xia Chen looked around. Suddenly, he saw a fish swimming towards him. The corner of his mouth curled up. Isn't the food delivered to the door? Sizzle. Xia Chen was eating grilled fish while thinking about his next plan. He had this system, which meant that he could not stay in one place for too long. Plot islands? If nothing unexpected happened, it should be the islands that appeared in the original anime. In this case, he has to check in on all these islands once. I just don't know which timeline it is now. Xia Chen opened the system panel while thinking. This is a new function. He just studied the system. You can see his overall attribute. Name, Xia Chen. Fruit, human fruit monkey king form, primary. Ability, Vajra indestructible body, primary. Armament Haki, not awakened. Observation Haki, not awakened. Conqueror Haki, not awakened. The panel looks extremely simple. It is the three-color Haki of the pirate world and the development level of the fruit. The Vajra indestructible body in the ability column is the first ability obtained after eating the fruit. The function is to transform his physique into that of the Monkey King. And there is no need to say how awesome the Monkey King's Vajra indestructible body is. This is a top-level physique created by eating countless 9-turn golden pills and peaches. The top-level physique in One Piece, such as Big Mom's iron balloon, is just a little brother in front of the Vajra indestructible body. Just beat it casually. After reading this information, Xia Chen was almost full. Then he walked towards the center of the island. Although he didn't know the way, it was definitely right to go to the center. The most important thing for him now was to know what timeline he was in, so that he could arrange the next itinerary conveniently. And he had to get a boat. After a while, Xia Chen stopped and looked at the increasingly dense trees in front of him. He couldn't help but touch his chin and think. What went wrong? There's no reason to say that I'm Zoro's idiot, right? Can't even find the way? Just as Xia Chen was still thinking, a voice came to his ears. Gamagomo. This is... Xia Chen's eyes lit up and he ran towards the place where the voice came from. As soon as he arrived at the destination, Xia Chen saw a boy wearing a straw hat punching a tiger. The boy and the tiger were dozens of meters apart. But his fist stretched out directly and hit the tiger's chin heavily. Seeing this scene, Xia Chen's mouth curled up a smile. Wang Luffy. It seems that I know where to go next. In that case. Just as Xia Chen was still thinking, the tiger that was beaten flew straight towards him. Luffy was also surprised when he saw a person suddenly appear. He hurriedly shouted. Get out of the way. Hey! Xia Chen was still immersed in his own thoughts. He looked up when he heard Luffy's voice. A huge figure came into view and was about to hit him in the next second. Xia Chen was startled. He subconsciously threw a punch forward. Bang! The tiger had just flown over and had not landed when Xia Chen punched it again. And the power was much stronger than Luffy's punch just now. The bones inside the tiger were directly broken, and it spit out blood in the air. It stopped after flying and hitting several trees. Degree. You, Luffy looked at Xia Chen blankly, unable to utter a complete sentence. At this time, Xia Chen was also confused. Is he so strong? He didn't use much strength just now. The power is so great? At this time, Xia Chen realized it belatedly. It seems that his indestructible body has something. Is he so strong just at the beginner level? Sugui. You are so awesome. Luffy ran over and said to Xia Chen excitedly. Are you also from Windmill Village? Why haven't I seen you before? No, I just came to Windmill Village today. Xia Chen shook his head and said. Hello, my name is Monkey D. Luffy, and I am the man who will become the Pirate King. Luffy said confidently. I want you to get on my ship and be my partner. Hey! Xia Chen was a little confused. He was just thinking about how to convince Luffy to let him get on the ship. Didn't expect it to be solved so easily. Shouldn't I say something? As expected of Luffy. Choosing a partner is cautious. That's right, Xia Chen had already decided in his heart when he saw Luffy. That is to get on Luffy's ship. Follow the protagonists. Most of the islands in One Piece are related to the protagonists. Following them just happens to coincide with his system goal. And it is not easy to die suddenly if you follow the protagonists, it is much safer. Although he seems to be strong now, he will not be arrogant. Are there not many monsters in One Piece? Even if this is the weakest of the four seas, the East China Sea. But if you accidentally encounter a golden lion one day, wouldn't it be a cackle? So, it is safer to follow Luffy and the others. And the most important thing is, when Xia Chen watched One Piece in his previous life, he envied their friendship. At that time, he even thought about becoming one of them. Now the opportunity is delivered to the door. Then you must seize it. Thinking of this, Xia Chen said to Luffy. Okay. But I have a condition. I want to be the vice captain. Ha ha ha. Okay. Luffy agreed happily. Then. Captain, when are you going to go out to sea? Let's go tomorrow. Let's have a good meal tonight. Hearing the word eat, Xia Chen subconsciously looked at the tiger lying there. Grinning. Okay. Just when he was hungry. The next day. No, Luffy, can't you find a bigger boat? Xia Chen said helplessly as he looked at the boat that could barely carry 2 people. I can't find it. This boat is the biggest one I can steal from the village chief. Xia Chen couldn't help but hold his forehead. Suddenly, he began to doubt whether his decision to board Luffy's ship yesterday was right or wrong. But there was no way now. I got on the pirate ship and couldn't get off. Just then, Luffy suddenly shouted. Xia Chen, look! There's a tornado coming towards us. What? Xia Chen turned his head and looked. Sure enough, the sea surface that was calm just now was already covered with dark clouds. Instantly, bean-sized raindrops poured down from the sky. At this time, a huge tornado was also attacking Xia Chen and his friends. Damn, this is not only a pirate ship. It's also a dangerous ship. Xia Chen and his friend's boat was shaking in the storm. Especially since the tornado was about to hit them, their boat would definitely not be able to hold on. Suddenly, Xia Chen suddenly found 2 connected barrels floating in the distance. Eyes lit up. Got it. Luffy, do you see those 2 barrels? Row over there. Okay. Coming to the barrel, Xia Chen opened it and took a look. There's no wine in the barrel. Then Xia Chen turned around and shouted to Luffy. Hurry, get in. Okay. Luffy jumped in without hesitation. After all, he was still very scared when he encountered such a situation as a landlubber. After seeing Luffy jump in, Xia Chen also opened another wine barrel and jumped in. Before closing the lid, he also pushed the boat next to it, to prevent them from being implicated later. Above a sea area in the East China Sea, the warm sea breeze blew gently, and the seagulls cried from time to time, a peaceful and beautiful picture. But at this time, on a ship with a pirate flag with a heart in the skull. Ha ha ha, little ones! Who is the most beautiful woman on this sea? A rough fat woman's voice came. Of course, it's the captain of this ship. Miss Alrita. A group of pirates said tremblingly. Ha 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 ha. Well said. No one else deserves this title except me. After saying that, the woman laughed again. The fat on her face trembled with laughter. That's right, this person is the Iron Rod Alrita with a bounty of 5 million. Even a fat pig would feel ashamed of himself. At this moment, a pink-haired fat man shouted. Miss Alrita, I found 2 connected barrels on the sea. Hey? Connected barrels. Go. Pull it up. Let me see what good stuff there is. Soon, the 2 barrels were salvaged by the pirates. Alrita was very happy to see the barrels salvaged. With her many years of sailing experience, she could tell at a glance that the barrels were not filled with wine. The draft depths were different. And in this sea, the barrels were not filled with wine. What was most likely to be in them? Of course, it was treasure. Thinking of this, Alrita walked towards the barrels happily. She said, Kobe, you did a good job, keep up the good work. Yes. Miss Alrita. Kobe answered tremblingly. Treasure, here I come. Alrita's fat hand slowly reached for the lid of the barrel. Just as she was about to touch the barrel, a fist stretched out from inside, slowly enlarging in Alrita's eyes. Bang! Alrita was caught off guard and was directly knocked out. At the same time, a voice came from the position of the wine barrel. Sleep so good. The pirates stared at Alrita who was blown away, and then looked at Luffy who was stretching. At the same time, an idea came to mind. This kid is dead. At the same time, another wine barrel also broke apart. Yo! It seems that the ending has not changed much. Xia Chen said as he looked at the pirate soldiers in front of him and Alrita lying over there. I didn't expect that the influence of this little butterfly on the plot was not great. I still met Alrita. Xia Chen felt that this was good, at least his appearance would not affect the direction of the plot. Then he was equivalent to opening a profit cheat? System cheat and profit cheat. Invincible. It's just that the wooden barrels that contained the 2 of them this time were not moved from the merchant ship. In this case, it means that Nami is not on this ship now? But now is obviously not the time for Xia Chen to think so much. Alrita over there was going crazy at this time. She got up from the ground and shouted at Luffy. You bastard, do you know what you did? What? Luffy looked at the irritable Alrita without any reaction. After picking his nose with his hand, he said. Who is this rude auntie? Rude, auntie? The faces of all the pirates around changed. Alrita's face turned blue with anger. She picked up the iron rod and smashed it towards Luffy, saying. I want you to die. Luffy jumped lightly to avoid Alrita's attack. Then another punch hit her in the face. As expected, she flew out again. The pirate minions saw this scene and immediately came forward with knives. They were ready to beat Luffy up. But at this time, a figure blocked them. Xia Chen looked at the pirates and said calmly. This road is blocked. But none of the pirates paid attention to what Xia Chen said. They are a group of pirates who live on the edge of a knife every day. Would they be afraid of a little kid like you? What a joke! Then a group of people swarmed up. One of the pirates wearing a headscarf said with a grin. When you are underground, you will know whether the road is passable or not. Looking at this scene, Xia Chen sighed lightly. Hey! Why bother? Then Xia Chen's eyes condensed. The figure disappeared instantly. Bang! Bang! In just a few breaths, the pirates lay peacefully on the ground one by one. It was as if they saw their grandmother waving at them. Xia Chen was not surprised at all by the situation in front of him. He himself did not know how strong he was now. The indestructible body that comes with the Monkey King's fruit is really awesome. It greatly strengthened his physique. And it even inherited Monkey King's combat experience. Tell me if it's outrageous, right? Sometimes Xia Chen wondered if this system was simply a fruit setting for the Monkey King to appear in the One Piece world. Otherwise, I've never heard of any fruit that can inherit combat experience. But he didn't want to think about it. He just knew that he was the beneficiary. Then Xia Chen turned his head and saw Luffy and Alrita, who were fighting just now, confronting each other at this time. Then Kobe also shouted that sentence. This person is the ugliest old woman. Alrita shouted. You stinky brat. Then the iron rod smashed down on Kobe. Luffy instantly appeared in front of Kobe and took the blow directly with his head. A smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. It seems, it's useless. Gomo. Pistol. Bang. Ugh. The fist hit Alrita's stomach, hitting her so hard that her eyes were about to pop out. Then, she flew into the sky like wolf. And landed in the sea in the distance. It's just that the classic line is missing. Xia Chen glanced at the pirates on the ground and kicked them. Hey! Get the food out of this ship for us. If it's too late, you can imagine the consequences. Hearing this, the pirates shuddered. They climbed up with their aching bodies and went to find food. Luffy came over and laughed carelessly. Xia Chen, how do you know I'm hungry? No. I'm just hungry. After a while. Hoo. Xia Chen and Luffy both lay on the deck, touching their full stomachs and smiling happily. Xia Chen found that he didn't know if it was because he had awakened his indestructible body. He found that his appetite was even bigger than Luffy, the big eater. It's a bit outrageous. It seems that Sanji will be busy in the future. After a short rest, Xia Chen asked the pirates again. Where are all the treasures on your ship? Although he is not a money grubber like Nami. But he needs to eat. He and Luffy are really better off with their money than their faces. Without some rice in their pockets, they feel uneasy. In the cabin. One of the pirates answered tremblingly. Why are you standing there? Take me there. Seeing the pirate staring at him blankly after he finished speaking, Xia Chen cursed angrily. Yes. Please follow me. Coming to the place where the treasure was placed, Xia Chen was very satisfied with the scene in front of him. Barry said there were 5 million. There were also some gold, jewelry, etc. Although Xia Chen didn't know the value of these things. But I think it shouldn't be bad. Okay, you can go out. Close the door when you go out. Xia Chen said to the pirate who led him in. Yes. Xia Chen's mind moved, and all the treasures in front of him disappeared directly on the spot. He collected them into the system space. The system space can only store dead objects. But there is no time flow inside. That is to say, if Mo Li puts a piece of meat in, it will be the same as it was before entering. It will be the same as it came out. He has tested this in the past few days. The size of the space is 1,000 billion cubic meters. It sounds very big. But in fact, it is just a cube with a length, width, and height of 10,000 meters. This size is actually not enough for some larger Sea King corpses in one piece. But to hold treasures? That's as much as you can hold. Everyone in the Straw Hat Pirates has to act according to Nami's mood. And Nami acts according to the treasure. I have treasure. So in the end, everyone on the ship has to act according to my mood. Correct answer. From now on, I will be the face fruit ability user in the Straw Hat Pirates. Just when Xia Chen collected the treasure and was about to go out. Bang! Bang! Several huge explosions sounded. Then the ship began to tilt and shake. Hey! Xia Chen opened the hatch and came to the deck. I saw several navy ships parked in the sea in the distance. They were firing at them continuously. Kobe, didn't you say you wanted to join the navy? Go over now. Luffy's voice came. What a joke, don't even think about joining the army in this situation. You will definitely go to jail later. Kobe's unpleasant voice came. He, a person on a pirate ship, ran to the navy and said he wanted to be a navy? I'm afraid it would not add merit to them, right? Ha ha ha. In that case, let's escape first. I'm a pirate. Xia Chen, let's go. Luffy laughed. Understood, Captain. Xia Chen smiled. It seems that escaping from the eyes of the navy is a good feeling. A small boat was thrown directly from the ship by Luffy, and then he jumped down. Just when Xia Chen was about to go down, he saw Kobe next to him trembling and looking down. What are you doing? I'm scared, it's too high. Xia Chen couldn't help but hold his forehead after hearing this. Kobe in the early stage was really. So Xia Chen grabbed Kobe's collar with one hand and smiled at him evilly. It's okay, I will help you overcome your fear. Then Xia Chen grabbed Kobe and jumped down. After a while, Xia Chen and the other two finally escaped the pursuit range of the navy. Sitting on the boat and laughing happily. Mr. Luffy, what are you going to do next? Next? I'm going to find a lot of great partners. There must be a chef, a navigator. The most important thing is, there must also be a musician. How can we have a banquet without a musician? Luffy's eyes turned into stars when he said this. By the way, let's go find that great pirate hunter you mentioned. If he is really great, then I will let him be my partner. One day later, Xia Chen looked at the navy town looming in the distance. He kicked Luffy who was sleeping. Hey, Luffy! Wake up, we are almost there. Hey? What's wrong, Xia Chen, is it time for dinner? Can Luffy, this idiot, think of anything else besides eating? But speaking of eating, he is also a little hungry. We will eat meat when we get to the town. Meat? Okay, okay. Luffy's saliva flowed out a little while he spoke. Xia Chen stepped back a meter in an instant and looked at Luffy with disgust. Disgusting. After a while, Xia Chen and Luffy finally set foot on the island. As soon as he landed on the island, the long-lost system voice sounded in Xia Chen's mind. Successfully check into the Shield's Town Island and obtain the Navy 6 styles, ultimate level. Instantly, a stream of knowledge poured directly into his mind. In just a moment, he mastered the Navy 6 styles. Xia Chen was very excited at this time. Although the Navy 6 styles are a bit common in the later period. But at least in the early stage, it is still very strong. And this thing is just a skill-based thing. The higher the proficiency, the more powerful skills can be developed. For example, Life Return, 6 King's Spear and so on. But its power is related to the strength of the user itself. Don't you see that even a strong man like Garp can use the 6 styles? So it's not that the 6 styles are weak, it's just that the people who use them are weak. And the 6 styles at the secret level that Xia Chen has now clocked in are the highest level. In other words, Xia Chen has now reached the peak of his understanding of the 6 styles. He also knows skills such as Life Return and 6 King's Spear. He is even more proficient than Lucci. To be honest, Xia Chen is very happy to have obtained the 6 styles now. His fruit has only given him an extremely strong physique at present. But the means of attack are slightly lacking. Now the appearance of the 6 styles just makes up for his weakness. He is now terribly strong. It's just that no one has come to verify his strength for the time being. Monka? No, no, no. He is afraid that Monka will die if he punches him. Suddenly, Xia Chen seemed to think of something. A smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. If it's him, should be okay. Verb. Woohoo, so full. Xia Chen and the other two said in unison, touching their round bellies. Xia Chen, where did you get so many berries? Of course I got them from Alrida's ship, Xia Chen replied calmly while drinking his drink. Hey? I didn't see you carrying any with you. Xia Chen rolled his eyes when he heard this. I used my ability to create a space, and then put all the treasures on the ship into it. Oh. Si Kui, Xia Chen, you are so awesome. Are you also a devil fruit user? Why didn't I hear you say that before? You didn't ask. After eating and drinking, the group went to work. Target Naval Base. After a while, everyone arrived at the gate of the naval base. Finally, can I join the Navy? Kabi's eyes were filled with tears. Then he said emotionally. Mr. Xia Chen, Mr. Luffy, we are going to say goodbye here. Although this period of time is very short, but... Stop! Xia Chen interrupted Kobe directly. Looking at Kobe with a smile, he said. Don't be so excited, you may think differently later. This is the naval base ruled by Monka, and the navy inside can no longer be called righteous. Each of them has been corrupted to the extreme. And Kobe is a man who is committed to justice. I wonder what he will think when he sees this situation? Just as Xia Chen was thinking, a sound of landing came. I saw that Luffy beside him had disappeared from the spot at some point. Jumped into the execution ground. You are fast enough. Without thinking much, Xia Chen also jumped in directly. Only Kobe was left standing in the wind in a mess. As soon as he entered, Xia Chen saw Luffy talking to a man wearing a black turban and tied to a rack. Zoda! I finally see you. Xia Chen murmured, with a slight smile on his face. Then he slowly walked towards them. Hey, I'm talking to you, come and be my partner. Go pirate with me. No. I don't want to join the evil forces. Zoro said with a pout. But now you are said to be an evil bounty hunter. Okay, never mind. Anyway, I have decided to let you be my partner. I heard that you are a swordsman, right? Where is your sword? The colonel's stupid son took it away. Oh. Luffy clapped his hands when he heard this. Then I will help you get the sword back, and you will be my partner. Otherwise, I won't give it to you. You guy. Zoro was irritated. Good guy, dare to threaten him? Okay, I'm going. After that, Luffy ran towards the base. At this time, Xia Chen also walked slowly in front of Zoro. Zoro, what do you mean? Aren't you hungry after not eating for 20 days? Xia Chen looked at Zoro in front of him and asked. To be honest, he still admired Zoro for this. If it were him, he might be like Luffy. He would starve to death if he didn't eat for a few days. Are you in the same group as that boy in the straw hat? Don't compare me with you. My perseverance is beyond your imagination. Hearing this, Xia Chen nodded in agreement. Indeed. Zoro's perseverance is unmatched in the entire One Piece world. The sentence "nothing happened" made countless people blush. But Xia Chen would not be like Luffy, the idiot, who had already walked in front of him. Why didn't he untie the rope on Zoro first? In the end, it was still up to him, the wise and brave vice-captain, to do it. Then Xia Chen waved his fingers in the air a few times. Several micro-air blades shot out as Xia Chen waved his fingers. Cut the rope on Zoro directly. That's right, he used the technique of storm leg. As for why this technique can be used with fingers? Keiku can use his neck, so there is no reason to say that he can't use his fingers. Zoro walked down from the shelf and stretched his body. A smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. I'm not used to being tied up for too long. Xia Chen's mind moved, and a piece of meat appeared in his hand. Then he threw it towards Zoro. Zoro took it and started to chew it directly. Hey? Aren't you afraid that I will poison you? Xia Chen was a little curious, so confident in him. If you want to kill me, you can do it when I was tied up just now. There is no need to let me down. Zoro answered calmly. Yet. Sure. Zoro's IQ seems to be online, not like Luffy, that idiot. Just when Xia Chen wanted to chat with Zoro, there was a noise on the top of the building in the distance. Xia Chen turned his head and looked. At this time, a huge stone statue was slowly pulled up by dozens of ropes. And Luffy's arm was also on the edge of the roof wall. Xia Chen smiled knowingly. It seems that there will be a good show to watch. Then he grabbed Zoro's collar, who was still eating meat. And Zoro was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. When Xia Chen suddenly attacked him just now, he actually wanted to resist. But before he could react, he found that he was caught. Then he flew into the sky. Degree. At this time, Xia Chen took Zoro and kept stepping in the air. The figures of the two also went to the top of the building at a high speed. Who are you? Can you fly? At this time, Zoro was completely confused. Can we still play like this? His eyes were filled with solemnity when he looked at Xia Chen. A thought flashed through his mind. This man is a strong man. After a while, the two reached the top of the building. At this time, Luffy also flew up from below. Ah! Flying over the head. Luffy screamed subconsciously. Then his hand unconsciously rested on the stone statue of Monka. Then, boom! With the sound of heavy objects hitting the ground, the stone statue of Monka broke directly into two halves. Oh! Everyone was stunned at this time. Looking at this situation, Luffy said embarrassedly. Sorry. I'm going to kill you. Monka shouted loudly. This guy hit me, Dad. Barram Eber shouted loudly. But the next second, Luffy appeared in front of him. He was so scared that his face was deformed. It's you, come on, I'm going to take you to find something. Then Luffy carried Barumbo and ran downstairs. Xia Chen stood on the roof and said to Zoro. Go, you can find your sword if you follow them. Zoro hesitated after hearing this. Will you be okay up here alone? Monka is still very strong. Him? Very strong? Xia Chen asked, picking his nose and pointing at Monka. What an international joke, I will beat as many of these trash as they come. Don't talk so much. Go down quickly. Without a sword, it's useless for you to stay here. Xia Chen belittled Zoro without any politeness. Indeed, Zoro's current strength is not strong, and the swordless style has not been developed yet. It is indeed a bit redundant to stay here. Soran's face was a little dark at this moment, although he knew that what Xia Chen said was true. But I don't want to lose face, son. Without saying anything more, Zoro turned around and chased after Luffy and the others. On the other side, Monka was completely furious. First, the stone statue was broken by a straw hat-wearing bastard. Then he was called a waste by a kid who also looked like a child. This is intolerable. He couldn't tolerate anything. He roared and rushed towards Xia Chen. When he approached Xia Chen, he chopped down with an axe. And the expression on Xia Chen's face did not change at all. His lips slightly opened. Paper painting. Xia Chen dodged Monka's attack by a millimeter. To be honest, although his current strength is many times stronger than Monka. But after all, he had just obtained the Navy 6 styles. He still wanted to try these skills. Even though he had reached the pinnacle in his understanding of the 6 styles. But what the system directly instilled is definitely different from what he personally experienced. And Monka sneered after seeing Xia Chen dodge his attack. Boy, you are lucky. Yes, he did not think that Xia Chen relied on strength to dodge his attack. He just thought it was luck. After all, with his knowledge, he did not know the Navy 6 styles at all. Then he said, I will kill you with this attack. After that, he raised the axe and attacked Xia Chen. Xia Chen smiled contemptuously and did not say anything. After a while, Hoo! Hoo! At this time, Monka was panting heavily. His eyes were full of shock when he looked at Xia Chen. During this period, he launched at least hundreds of attacks on Xia Chen. But each time he just dodged. At this time, no matter how stupid he was, he knew that the young man in front of him was not simple. But he still didn't think he would lose. In his opinion, Xia Chen was just hiding. He was definitely not as strong as him. Then he challenged Xia Chen. You can only hide? Do you dare to fight me head-on? Come on! Xia Chen hooked his finger at Monka. I won't hide this time. Monka's face showed joy when he heard this. He was still too young. He lost his temper so easily. Then let your grandfather Monka send you to hell. After saying that, Monka ran towards Xia Chen and jumped high when he was about to reach Xia Chen. He raised the axe in his hand above his head. He chopped down Xia Chen heavily. Clang! The roar of metal colliding came. Monka's face showed a look of horror. He said in disbelief. How is this possible? The camera turned, and Xia Chen caught Monka's axe with just one finger. And there was no scar on his finger. It should be said that although the iron block is jokingly called the most useless 6 styles, but many people still use it. In the early stage, it is actually quite effective. It's just that it was replaced by the armed color domineering in the later stage. Xia Chen looked at Monka calmly and said, You have been attacking for so long, it should be my turn next, right? Monka had not recovered from the previous shock at this time. Suddenly, he heard Xia Chen's words, and his body shuddered. An idea subconsciously popped up in his mind. No. Xia Chen's fist appeared in front of Monka in an instant, and hit him directly in the stomach. Puff! Monka took off instantly. He spat out a large mouthful of blood in the air. He flew out from the rooftop of the building and fell towards the execution ground below. Shave! Xia Chen's figure instantly disappeared from the middle of the rooftop, and then appeared on the edge of the rooftop. He quietly looked at Monka, who was lying on the ground and spitting blood. He lost consciousness after a while. To be honest, this result was because Xia Chen had used a lot of strength. He originally wanted to hit Monka casually and let him suffer, and then leave the final end to Zoro. But unfortunately, he overestimated Monka and underestimated himself. He didn't expect that this guy couldn't hold on after using only 30% of his strength. So Zoro didn't have a chance to practice. But it doesn't matter. There is no improvement in fighting with such a rookie. The next few experience packs will be left to Zoro. Speak of the devil appears. Luffy's voice came from the stairs. Xia Chen, wait a minute, Zoro and I are here to help you. But when Luffy and the others reached the rooftop, they saw an extremely strange scene. Xia Chen was standing on the edge of the rooftop. The other thing was that the group of Navy extras were huddled in the corner. There was deep fear in their eyes when they looked at Xia Chen. Luffy didn't think too much and asked Xia Chen directly. Where is the big axe? Look, it's lying down. Xia Chen pointed down. Hey! Question marks appeared on Luffy and Zoro's heads at the same time. Then he walked over and looked down. Monka was lying peacefully on the ground of the execution ground, surrounded by bloodstains. All of it was vomited just now. Sigui, Xia Chen, you are so awesome. Keep a low profile, keep a low profile. Isn't this normal? Xia Chen said it was normal, but the expression on his face had completely betrayed him. The corners of his mouth were about to curl up to the sky. Zoro, who was standing next to him, was also very surprised to see Xia Chen solve Monka so quickly. It seems as he expected. Xia Chen is indeed a strong man. Looking at the two of them, Zoro smiled. It seems that the days to come will not be boring. After a while, Xia Chen looked at Luffy and Zoro with a little surprise. That's right, just when Xia Chen and Monka were playing, Luffy had already taken Zoro on board. He originally thought that it would take some effort to trick Zoro on board if the plot was a little off. Unexpectedly, Luffy solved it so easily. Should we say that this is the personal charm of King Luffy? Xia Chen smiled. Since then, Zoro has officially become the third crew member of the Straw Hat Grand Fleet. Let's go. Let's go to the town to eat meat. Xia Chen said happily. Meat? Luffy's eyes instantly became starry. Okay, let's go. Luffy jumped up on the spot and ran towards the town. Seeing Luffy like this, Zoro sneered. What's so good about meat? Hey? I remember you were very happy when I gave it to you just now. Xia Chen asked faintly. Zoro's face froze instantly, and after a while he said stubbornly. I was just too hungry. Didn't you say you have the most perseverance? Xia Chen asked again. Xia Chen, you are looking for death, right? Zoro was immediately furious. Ha ha ha. Feeling this harmonious atmosphere, Xia Chen felt very happy. Then he said. What if there is still wine? Wine. The anger on Zoro's face disappeared instantly, and was replaced by a look of desire. Then he cleared his throat. Ahem, let's go. After saying that, he ran towards Luffy. He was still shouting. Luffy, why are you running so fast? Then he turned back. Xia Chen, if you don't come, you will be the last one. Xia Chen smiled. That's impossible. Then he instantly used the moon step to fly into the sky, and then used the moon step and shave together. He kept teleporting in the air. He even mocked Zoro when he passed him. I'm not the slowest now. Bye. Then he disappeared instantly. You cheated. Night. Gurgle gurgle. After eating and drinking, Luffy and Zoro both lay in the room and slept soundly. But Xia Chen stood up at this time. He opened the door and walked out. The moon step rose into the sky and disappeared into the vast night. In just a few breaths, Xia Chen arrived at the naval base. He had been talking to Luffy and the others during the day. Almost forgot the business. As soon as Xia Chen entered the base, he saw a man sitting on the wall of the execution ground. Out of curiosity, Xia Chen went over to take a look. Hey, isn't this Belmeber? Why, your father fell, and you came out to look at the stars in melancholy. Belmeber, who was staring at the sky, suddenly heard a voice and almost fell off the wall. And when he turned around and saw that it was Xia Chen who was talking. He didn't fall down at first, but he really fell down at this moment. Seeing Belmeber so afraid of him, Xia Chen was a little dissatisfied. Why, I look fierce. No. Then why are you so afraid of me? Belmeber was speechless at this time. You beat my father to the point that he only had one breath left. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Xia Chen shook his head and didn't care about him anymore. Asked him directly. Hey, Barry of your naval base, where are the treasures? Take me there. Yes. Belmeber shuddered and responded quickly. Soon after, under the leadership of Belmeber, Xia Chen arrived at the destination. This is where the treasure is stored. Very good. I can go in by myself, you don't have to follow me. After saying that, Xia Chen pushed the door open and walked in. As soon as he entered the door, Xia Chen vaguely saw a flashing black shadow. A smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Interesting. Xia Chen came to the pile of treasures. These treasures were piled neatly and orderly, as if they had been sorted by someone. Suddenly, a black shadow appeared behind Xia Chen. The black shadow took a stick and hit Xia Chen's neck hard. The sound of the stick swinging in the air made the black shadow's body tremble unconsciously. "Where is the person, the person? Miss, it's not a good habit to do something behind someone's back." The sudden voice behind him startled the black shadow. He quickly turned around and took a few steps back. Then the figure gradually emerged. Orange hair, blue and white clothes, yellow shorts. Who else could it be but Nami? At this time, Nami looked at Xia Chen, who was smiling lightly opposite her, and a drop of cold sweat flowed down her forehead. An emotion called fear arose from her heart. She didn't see how the person in front of her disappeared just now. At this moment, countless thoughts flashed through her mind. It's over. She just attacked him. Will this guy kill her? If he really attacks her, she will have no ability to resist. What should I do? What should I do? Wait, I got it. Nami's face suddenly showed a pitiful expression. She said pitifully to Xia Chen. I really didn't attack you on purpose just now. I thought you were one of those bad navy guys in this base. You know, I'm a girl and I can't do anything. If I fall into the hands of those navy guys, I'll be finished. That's why I did this. Will you forgive me? The words she said were full of true feelings. But Xia Chen didn't say anything. He still smiled at her. He thought to himself. You can fool Luffy with this, but if you fool me, it might be a little off. However, since Nami likes to act so much, it seems that it is not impossible for him to act with her, so Xia Chen pretended to be sinister and said. How do you know that I am not a marine here? He. Oh. Nami was speechless. Should she say that she came in to steal? Oh, no, before taking the treasure. I have been squatting here for a while, and I have never seen you at all? This reason doesn't seem to work. Just when Nami was still thinking about what reason to find, Xia Chen interrupted her thoughts. Okay, let's not talk about this anymore. I'm a generous person, so let's just forget about your sneak attack on me. Now let's talk about business. If I'm not mistaken, you came here to steal treasures, right? You too? Nami asked curiously. No. Then what are you doing here? I'm here to be helped. Hey? What do you mean? Nami was confused. It means I need these treasures to help me, understand? So it seems that we are fellow travelers in the end. Nami said this after holding it in for a long time. It was the first time she saw someone talk about stealing so refreshingly. I've learned something. She will often go to be helped in the future. You're right to say that. Xia Chen said lightly. So. I want the treasures here, do you have any objections? What? Nami's face suddenly became ugly. She had just worked so hard to move these treasures here and sort them out. She was going to move them all out later. But an uninvited guest showed up halfway and wanted to take the fruits of her labor for himself. But, what could she do? The novel was taken from the Reliz website. Close where you're reading it and support us on our website for more free novels. Oh. Don't wait to die here, everyone is waiting for her to rescue them. So she could only force a smile. No objection. Looking at Nami's expression, Xia Chen smiled. With Nami's character that he knew well, she was bleeding in her heart to make this decision. It was just out of helplessness, she had to do this. Actually, it's not impossible to give you these treasures. Xia Chen smiled faintly. Surprised face, really? Nami showed an excited smile on her face. She had thought that she would miss out on these treasures, but she didn't expect that she would have a chance to get them in the end. Then, how can you give it to me? It's simple, you just need to agree to one condition. Condition? Nami was a little confused. Then when she saw Xia Chen's half-smile at her, she immediately crossed her arms and shouted angrily. Give up on this idea, it's impossible. Xia Chen? I haven't said anything yet? Seeing Nami's action, he knew what she was thinking. A few black lines appeared on his forehead. I'm not interested in the airport, okay? To be honest, he really has no interest in Nami at this age. Her figure is far worse than that of 2 years later. If it was Nami 2 years later, he might consider it. Nami's figure 2 years later was really good, and her mind became broader. That's good. Nami patted her chest and breathed a sigh of relief. Although you are handsome, I'm not a casual person. Stop, stop, stop. If you say these again, I won't give it to you later. Hearing Xia Chen's words, Nami, who wanted to say something else, immediately closed her mouth and made a mouth-pulling action. Listen, the condition I want you to agree to is. Agree to one condition. Nami? Are you playing a tongue twister here? Perhaps Xia Chen also felt that what he said was a bit ambiguous, so he continued. I mean you agree to one condition, but I haven't thought of this condition yet. I'll tell you when I think of it later. Of course, it's within your ability. How about it? Okay, okay. Nami nodded her head like a woodpecker. You must be joking. Isn't this just a blank check? And later? Is it possible that you will meet me in the future? Thinking of this, Nami was immediately happy. After many twists and turns, the treasure finally returned to her hands. Although there were some minor twists and turns in the process. But it was harmless, and in the end, nothing was paid. Seeing Nami's happy look, Xia Chen knew what she was thinking. The corners of his mouth slightly raised. Nami, you can't escape. Okay, then I'll leave first, please go ahead. After saying that, Xia Chen's figure instantly disappeared from the spot. Nami, who was left there, couldn't help but feel her heart skip a beat. Again, she could not see anything and the person disappeared. Suddenly, she regretted agreeing too early. What should she do if she meets him in the future? Forget it, isn't it okay if she doesn't meet him in the future? When I collect 100 million and give it to the evil dragon, I will stay in Kokozia village and not go out. I won't go anywhere. I don't believe he can still know that I am in Kokozia village. After thinking it through, Nami turned around and looked at the treasures all over the ground. The eyes suddenly turned into the shape of berry. Making a big profit. Xia Chen stood on the top of the naval base, watching Nami moving piles of treasures away. A smile appeared on his lips. Although his purpose of coming this time was indeed for the treasures. But he just wanted to increase his savings. The remaining berry on him was actually enough for the three of them to use for a while. So when he met Nami, he gave it to her directly. In his opinion, it was very worthwhile to exchange this little treasure for one of Nami's conditions. And Nami's money would be given to the dragon at that time. He would just go to the dragon for help at that time. Simple things would eventually return to his pocket, all the same. Okay, go back to sleep. Early the next morning. Luffy, if you eat so much again, you have to pay for your meals yourself. And you too, Zoro, who told you to order the most expensive wine every time. In a tavern in the town, Xia Chen's head was bulging with blue veins, and he said to Luffy and Zoro with anger. Damn, it was too hasty. Is it too late for him to go to Nami to get back the treasures? Luffy and Zoro, these two idiots, really squandered his remaining berries. What does it matter, Xia Chen, don't be so stingy. Luffy said while stuffing meat into his mouth. That's right, you see you are so petty now, right? Zoro also echoed. Ding! Ding! Xia Chen came to Luffy and Zoro in an instant and slapped them both. Kobe, who was watching this scene, was trembling with fear. An idea came to his mind. Mr. Xiachen, so fierce. Luffy and Zoro both hit their heads on the ground at the same time. But the reactions were completely different. Xiachen, you kid, I'm going to chop you off. Zoro was furious. Hey, Xiachen, I'm a rubber man, you can't hurt me. Luffy said provocatively. Damn it. Xiachen's anger surged up again. Looking at Luffy, he thought viciously. When I master Haki, I will beat you so hard that even your grandfather won't recognize you. What should Xiachen do now that he is still angry? Of course, he will vent his anger on some third-rate swordsman who wants to chop him. Hee. After a while, Xiachen was eating meat happily, while Zoro was drinking wine with a pig's head on his head, looking at Xiachen with resentment in his eyes. Bang bang! Just then, a group of navy came in from outside the door. He said to Xiachen and the others. Although we are very grateful that you helped us get out of the sea of suffering. But I am a navy, you are pirates, please leave this island. As soon as the words fell, many dissatisfied voices suddenly rang in the tavern. Are you navy sick? How can you treat our benefactor like this? I don't agree. The benefactor can leave whenever he wants. It's not your turn to decide. After hearing what the villagers said, Luffy was silent for a while. Then he said. Okay, let's go. Xiachen, Zoro, let's go. Xiachen and Zoro stood up and followed Luffy out. Just then, the voice of the navy came from behind. Aren't you also in the same group with them? Luffy turned around after hearing this and looked at Kobe, who was at a loss behind him. Then Luffy smiled. He walked up to Kobe and told him everything about his previous experience on the Alrita ship. And Kobe was worried that if the navy knew that he had been on the pirate ship, he would not let him join the navy. So when Luffy talked more and more, Kobe couldn't help but punch Luffy. You bastard! Oh, you dare to hit me! Luffy said angrily. Then the two of them kept hitting each other. The navy saw this and said hurriedly. Hey, stop it, I won't allow you to make trouble on this island anymore. I believe you are not in the same group. Luffy stopped what he was doing after hearing this, and then slowly walked out. The three of them walked on the small road out of the island. Hey! Are you going too far? Zoro asked Luffy. No. Kobe can handle it himself. Let's trust him. Luffy said with a smile. Xiachen nodded in the same way. After all, Kobe is the one who dares to confront Akainu head-on in the future, so how could he not handle this little thing well? Luffy came to the shore, put down the rope that tied the boat, and the three of them jumped directly onto the boat. At this time, Kobe suddenly ran over on the shore. Looking at Xiachen, he said. Thank you so much for taking care of me along the way. But I won't show mercy next time we meet. This is the first time I see the navy thank the pirates, it's so rare. Zoro curled his lips. There will be more in the future. Xiachen said lightly. Bye, Kobe. See you next time. Luffy shouted and waved. The boat slowly went away under the gaze of everyone in the town. One day later. Oh, I'm so hungry. Luffy collapsed on the boat weakly. His stomach was rumbling. Indeed, I'm a little hungry too. Xiachen nodded in agreement. Then Xiachen took out a piece of meat from the space and started to chew it. It smells so good. Luffy, who saw Xiachen eating, came up instantly. I want it too, I want it too. Xiachen casually took out 2 more pieces of meat from the system space and threw one to Luffy and Zoro. Xiachen, your fruit ability is really useful. Luffy said enviously. If I could be like you, I could bring lots of meat wherever I go. So happy. Xiachen and Zoro were speechless when they heard this. The two looked at each other and had the same idea in their minds. It's really unfortunate for them to have such a captain. By the way, how long will we drift like this? Zoro suddenly asked. I don't know, just drift. Luffy and I have come this way when we went out to sea. Xia Chen replied lightly. And at this point, Xia Chen's mouth curled up a smile. There will be something to take us later. What do you mean? Zoro didn't understand what Xia Chen meant before he saw Xia Chen's eyes suddenly looking up at the sky. Look, something is coming. Zoro looked up and saw a huge bird flying in the sky. You mean, this bird takes us there? Correct. Xia Chen snapped his fingers calmly. Are you kidding? This bird flies so fast, how can our ship catch up? Zoro looked at Xia Chen as if he were an idiot. Who said we're going to take a boat? Xia Chen showed a meaningful smile on his face. We're going to take a bird. Then, Xia Chen grabbed Zoro and Luffy one by one and approached the bird at high speed with the moon step. Ah bastard, what are you doing? Zoro's eyes widened. Luffy, on the other hand, was laughing. Woohoo, so exciting. Bang! Bang! After a few steps in space, Xia Chen had already approached the bird, and after another step, he landed on the bird's back. The moment the three of them came up, the bird fell down because of the sudden weight on its back. Xia Chen immediately teleported to the head of the bird. He put his finger on its head. Then he said in a very kind word. If you don't want us to have a roasted bird for dinner today, you should fly hard. Instantly, the bird was shocked, and its huge wings kept flapping, stabilizing its balance again. Although it didn't understand what Xia Chen said, it felt the murderous aura. For the sake of its life, it's okay to be a little tired. Woohoo! Luffy looked around excitedly, and he was so excited that he was dying. Zoro lay on the back of the bird with a look of despair. An idea popped up in his mind. If we stay with this group of people, it will be over sooner or later. None of them are normal. After a while, because the mounts under them were very powerful, they soon saw a small island that was looming. Xia Chen's eyes suddenly showed excitement. Finally arrived at Orange Town, I wonder what abilities I can get this time? He was very satisfied with the things he signed in the first 2 times. And there is one of the future 4 emperors on this island, Senryo Du Buggy. Xia Chen is actually quite curious, as one of the trainee crew members of One Piece. The best friend of the 4 emperors, red hair, referred to as gay friends. As for why they are called gay friends, you can find out by reading Red Hair Buggy backwards. Buggy's strength is still a mystery. Although he has always been very weak, it is not known whether he is really weak. Xia Chen wants to find out. 10 minutes later, Xia Chen and his friends were only a few hundred meters away from the island, but an accident happened at this time. Their mount is no longer able to do it. After carrying 3 people for so long, it has really reached its physical limit. This time, even if it wants to kill or cut it, it can't fly. Seeing this scene, Xia Chen is a little helpless. Why don't you hold on a little longer? Many things are just a little bit away from success. Alas! Hollow bird! There is no other way, he, the vice-captain, can only drag these 2 idiots away. Then Xia Chen picked up Luffy and Zoro in one hand, just like before. It seems that we have to find a ship quickly, otherwise there will be no so many hands to lift them when there are more people in the future. After such an experience, Zoro's reaction this time is obviously not so intense. Although he was still a little scared when he looked down, he didn't shout as much as he did at the beginning. After a while, the 3 of them arrived at Orange Town. The moment he stepped into the town, a beautiful and familiar voice sounded in Xia Chen's mind. Ding! Check in Orange Town successfully. Obtained armament Haki, primary, observation Haki, primary. Haki. Xia Chen was instantly excited. Whatever he thought came true. He said before that he would let Luffy taste the power of the Fist of Love after he mastered the armed color domineering. Isn't it here now? Thinking of this, Xia Chen said directly to Luffy. Hey, Luffy, come here. What? Xia Chen. Luffy walked over her slowly. Then Xia Chen suddenly punched Luffy on the head. Ah! It hurts, it hurts. A big bump appeared on Luffy's head, and he kept rolling on the ground. Hurt? Aren't you a rubber man? How could it hurt? Zoro next to him said in surprise. I don't know. Luffy covered his head and looked at Xia Chen with a trace of fear in his eyes. Xia Chen hitting me now is like my grandfather hitting me, it hurts so much. Hee. Xia Chen was very happy after the test result. Next time, let's see if you dare to be arrogant in front of me. This is a fistful of love, of course it will hurt if I hit you. Xia Chen said lightly. Then he turned around and walked back. Love. Luffy was a little confused, and then clapped his hands. My grandfather said the same thing before. It turns out that as long as there is love, I can be hurt. Suga. Zoro. Can you be more stupid? Zoro was thinking. He seemed to see a faint light flashing on Xia Chen's fist just now. If nothing unexpected happens, that is the key to hurting Luffy. What is that? Zoro looked at Xia Chen's back and gradually lost himself. It seems that this vice captain is hiding very deeply. Let's go. What are you two doing? Xia Chen turned around and looked at Zoro and Luffy who were standing there and said. Oh, good. Hey? Xia Chen, there is no such thing in this town. People? Luffy asked in confusion. Well, I don't know much either. Xia Chen replied. Although he knew that everyone had moved away because of the buggy pirate's presence. But wouldn't it be too suspicious to say it out loud? So let's pretend to be ignorant. Just as the three continued to walk into the town. A furious shout came from a distance. Stop, thief, don't run. Xia Chen and the other two turned around and saw three big men chasing a woman with orange hair. Xia Chen smiled as he saw the woman. Nami, we meet again so soon. At this time, Nami over there also found Xia Chen and the other two standing here, and a gleam of light flashed in her eyes. While running towards this side, she shouted, Boss, are you here to save me? You're still as good at passing the buck as always, Nami. Xia Chen raised his right hand and pointed it in the direction of Nami. Flying finger gun. Instantly, 3 streams of energy burst out from Xia Chen's fingers. They rushed towards Nami. Swoosh! 3 streams of energy brushed Nami's body and flew backwards. Puff! The sound of penetrating the flesh came, and the 3 pirates chasing her fell down. Wow! Xia Chen, how did you do this? So handsome! Luffy's eyes turned into stars instantly. Zoro next to him also looked at Xia Chen curiously. This is still quite difficult. Let me tell you the key points, and see if you can understand it. Luffy and Zoro stretched their necks instantly after hearing this, looking like good students. Although they didn't rely on this to fight, it's better to have more skills. This move depends mainly on talent. Okay, I've finished. It's up to you how much you can understand. But it should be difficult for you to understand it with your pig brains. Luffy, Zoro. I'm going to beat you up. I'm going to chop you up. Bang! Bang! Zoro and Luffy both lay on the ground and raised their hands. Private Marseille. You two, can't tell who is the big and small king, right? Xia Chen clapped his hands and said lightly. At this time, Nami, who was watching this scene from the opposite side, was stunned. Is this something that humans can do? Forgive her for being a little ignorant, she has never seen anyone who can knock down an enemy with just a flick of the finger. In this case, can she? Or maybe she thought of something, Nami ran directly to the three people and said to Xia Chen. Let's cooperate. For this, you have to talk to my captain, I'm just a vice captain. Look, this guy in the straw hat is it? Oh. Nami then turned to look at Luffy and asked again. Let's cooperate. No. Luffy said while picking his nose. Ah, why? There is a big bad guy named Buggy in this town, let's go and grab his treasure together. No. Luffy said the same thing. Seeing this, Xia Chen couldn't bear it anymore. If he kept talking like this, he might just be repeating these few sentences. So he said. We will cooperate with you, what bargaining chips can you bring? To be honest, your strength is completely useless, and we will have to share the treasure at that time. I don't see your value. Nami didn't know what to say after hearing this. Xia Chen was telling the truth. With his strength, he didn't need to take her with him. Then what should she use to impress Xia Chen? At this time, Xia Chen's meaningful voice came. Of course, if you know navigation skills, then you can consider it. My navigation skills are very strong, much better than many navigators. Really? Luffy next to him became excited. Then join our pirate group. We are now short of a navigator. Are you pirates? Hearing this, Nami, who was excited just now, suddenly looked gloomy. Yes. Because I made a promise with someone that I must become the Pirate King. Luffy said as he took off his straw hat. Forget it. What I hate most is pirates, and I won't join the pirate group. Why? Luffy asked without giving up. Just join us, our pirate group is very good. Pirates are good? I have never seen any pirates who are good. Nami said disdainfully. Pirates are a bunch of bastards who only occupy other people's villages and oppress the villagers. Nami gritted her teeth and said hatefully. We won't do such a thing. Just join us, what we lack most now is navigators. Luffy invited again. Nami wanted to refuse, but suddenly a group of pirates' voices came from outside the window. Nami walked to the window and looked, her face was a little ugly. We have to find a way to get rid of them. Then Nami seemed to have thought of something, and walked over and said. Okay, I can join you, but now I have to. After that, Nami took out a few ropes and wanted to tie up Xia Chen and the others. Hey! Wait! Xia Chen hurriedly interrupted her action. There is no need for this, we can just kill them directly. Just kidding, with such strength, how could he be tied up to Sea Buggy? In the face of absolute strength, all conspiracies and tricks are small tricks. Hey? Are you sure? Buggy is very strong, a big pirate with a bounty of 15 million. Hearing this, Xia Chen's mouth twitched slightly. The East China Sea is the East China Sea, and a bounty of 15 million is a big pirate. It's okay, we are very strong. Right, Luffy, Zoro? Hee, of course. So, let's go find him directly. After saying that, Xia Chen walked outside, and he suddenly stopped when he reached the door. By the way, where is Buggy? Now Xia Chen's observation haki is only at the elementary level, and it can't cover a large area, so he can't sense the breath of Buggy and others. Nami! Come with me. Nami waved her hand and walked out. Oh, are we going to meet the pirates here? I always feel a little excited. Luffy said with a smile. Then the group followed Nami. After a while, they came to the bottom of a building. Nami pointed to it and said, Baki and the others are up there, let's make a battle plan now. Battle plan? No need. Xia Chen said lightly. Then he reached out to Luffy and Zoro and grabbed their collars. Then he threw them directly up. Xia Chen, I will definitely chop you up one day. Tisk a painless threat. Then Xia Chen turned his head and looked at Nami. A drop of cold sweat immediately flowed down Nami's forehead. I can take the stairs, I don't need this convenient way to go upstairs. Xia Chen looked at her and grinned, walking up the stairs is too slow, don't worry, you are a girl, I won't throw you. Oh, that's good. Nami took a breath, but before she finished taking a breath, she found that Xia Chen grabbed her collar and lifted her up. Then flew up. Ah! 1 minute ago. What, you let the thief run away? Beiki looked at the three brothers in front of him in exasperation. Yes. I'm sorry, Captain Buggy. She has a boss who can shoot invisible bullets. We are no match for him. Look, we still have wounds on our bodies now. As he said this, the entire pirate pulled up his clothes and revealed his wounds. Hey? Invisible bullets. Buggy touched his chin and thought. Could it be a devil fruit user? After thinking for a long time, he still couldn't figure it out, so he stopped thinking about it. Instead, he continued to look at the three pirates and smiled grimly. I only look at the result. Since you let her run away, then die. After saying that, Buggy was ready to activate his ability to split into pieces, but at this time a sound interrupted his action. Ah! Hey? Who is shouting? Buggy stood up and asked. Then his brothers outside seemed to see something and ran away instantly. Buggy was angry when he saw this scene. Hey, you! Bang! Before Buggy finished speaking, the tent above his head suddenly collapsed, and then a person fell on him. Puff! Beiki was instantly pressed to the ground, and his face came into close contact with the ground, especially his big red nose was squeezed flat. Buggy was even more angry, and he wanted to cut the person who hit him into pieces. Just when he was about to get up, he ended up. Ah! Another one fell down, and just happened to hit him. This pushed his body, which had just gotten up a little, down again, and harder than before. This had to say that Xia Chen's technique was good, and both of them threw the same ballistics. A precise strike. Luffy, luckily you're there to cushion me. Xia Chen, you bastard! Zoro said angrily. Actually, it's okay if you fall somewhere else, the ground is soft. Luffy said happily. Is it true? Of course it's true, look, it's a little elastic. Luffy stood up and jumped a few times on the spot. Let me try. Zoro also stepped on it tentatively. Really? I don't know what material the floor here is made of, it's so soft. Just when they were having fun stepping on it, the floor under them suddenly moved. Then there was a roar. Of course it's made of my own flesh, you two bastards. Luffy, Zoro, holy crap, the floor is talking. Hurry up and get down, you two bastards. When the floor below them made a sound again, Luffy and Zoro finally realized that there was a person sitting under them. Luffy quickly got down, pulled open the tent, and dragged Buggy out. Then he shouted. Private Marseille! Boy, I want you dead! Buggy shouted loudly. Then several knives extended from the gaps between his fingers and stabbed at Luffy fiercely. Zoro, who saw this scene next to him, had a condensed look in his eyes, and the Wado Ichimonji instantly came out of his body to block Buggy's attack. He said with a bad face. We are kind-hearted to rescue you, isn't it not good for you to do this? Beiki almost laughed when he heard this. Rescue me? I was staying in the tent well, I don't know how comfortable it was. As a result, you two idiots who came from nowhere fell directly on my head. And stepped on it a few more times. Who do you think I should kill if I don't kill you? Suddenly, Buggy came up with a good idea, took back the knife in his hand, and asked Luffy and Zoro. Who are you? What do you want to do in my place, Buggy? Buggy, Red Nose, you are Buggy the Clown. Luffy asked in surprise. We are here to take your treasure. Beiki? Zoro. everyone. At this moment, Zoro really wanted to slap Luffy, the stupid captain, to death. Who taught you to talk like that? Take him out and chop him up. But since Luffy said so, he had no scruples. That's right, we're here to take your treasure. If you know what's good for you, hand it over quickly, or I'll chop you off. You two are really brave. It's fine if you just say you're here to rob my treasure. It's fine if you just say you're going to chop me off. But you dared to call me Red Nose. Are you laughing at me? Baki yelled. Isn't your nose red? Luffy tilted his head in a cute way. Baki's nose was about to be crooked when he heard about the red nose again. He said angrily. I want you to die. Then, an arm appeared behind Luffy at some point, holding a few cold knives and stabbed at Luffy. At this time, Luffy and Zoro didn't seem to notice this. Looking at the knife getting closer and closer to Luffy, Buggy's mouth flashed a grim smile. It worked. Just as the knife was about to stab Luffy, Buggy suddenly found that his hand couldn't move. And no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't move at all. Instantly, cold sweat broke out on his forehead. What's going on? At the same time, a faint voice came from behind Luffy. Bage the Clown, as a trainee crew member on the Pirate King's ship, it might not be a good idea to attack from behind, right? Xia Chen walked up from behind Luffy while talking, holding Buggy's hand. Ah! Xia Chen, you broke his hand. Luffy said with wide eyes and horror. You idiot! He is a person who ate the split devil fruit, and can split his body freely. Who are you? Buggy looked at Xia Chen with a gloomy face. He was not shocked that Xia Chen recognized his ability to split into pieces, because many people in the East China Sea knew about this. But the Pirate King trainee crew member thing. Not to mention the East China Sea, even in the Grand Line, very few people in the New World knew about this. So he was still very surprised that Xia Chen, who looked so young, knew this. Could it be that some elder in his family knew him? Thinking of this, Buggy couldn't help but feel a chill on his back. None of the older people who knew his identity were easy to mess with. Just as Buggy was still brainstorming in his mind, Xia Chen said. As for me, I am the vice captain of the Straw Hat Pirates and the future vice captain of the Pirate King. While speaking, Xia Chen let go of Buggy's hand and then slowly took it back to Buggy's hand. Straw Hat Pirates? Why haven't I heard of it? Buggy asked in confusion. Here. The people in front of you are all members of the Straw Hat Pirates. Hey! This is the stupid captain. Xia Chen pointed at Luffy. Then he pointed at Zoro and said, this is the third-rate swordsman on the ship. Hearing Xia Chen's words, Zoro's forehead burst with several blue veins at a speed visible to the naked eye. When he becomes stronger, the first person he will kill is Xia Chen, the bastard. Definitely. In the end, it will be me, the wise and brave vice captain. Why, Xia Chen, why am I a fool and you are wise and brave? Luffy yelled in dissatisfaction. Isn't this the matter in front of us? Xia Chen shrugged and replied lightly. Just when Luffy was about to argue, Buggy over there suddenly laughed. Ha 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 ha. I thought it was some big pirate group. I didn't expect it to be a small pirate group that I had never heard of. After laughing, Buggy looked at Luffy and said. Boy, you want to become the Pirate King. Go back and take a shower. The Pirate King is not something that third-rate pirates like you can get involved in, puff. Before Buggy finished speaking, he was hit hard in the stomach by a leg. His eyes were about to bulge out, and then he flew backwards like a cannonball and hit the wall behind him heavily. And at the place where Buggy was originally standing, Xia Chen slowly put down his foot in an attacking posture. The experiment was successful. Buggy is just a complete rookie, and he really only has this much strength. Compared to his best friend Red Hair, he is really far behind. Buggy-sama was beaten away. A group of pirate minions beside him shouted in shock. How is it possible? Buggy-sama is so powerful, he will definitely not be defeated so easily. One of the pirates shouted. Hey! Xia Chen looked at them and said with murderous eyes. You are annoying. In an instant, all the pirates shrank back. That speed, it is no exaggeration to say, is almost catching up with the speed of Xia Chen when he used shaving. Then one by one, they shrank their heads like quails, fearing that Xia Chen would notice them. Looking at this scene, Xia Chen did not say anything, but couldn't help thinking in his heart. I don't know when I can punch in the domineering color domineering, then it will be quick to clean up the miscellaneous soldiers. Cough cough. Beiki slowly got up from the ground and coughed a few times. The look he gave Xia Chen was solemn, but less fearful. I thought you were strong. I didn't expect the force of this kick was just this strong. Then don't blame me for leaving you all here today. He was not afraid of the people behind Xia Chen. The sea was so vast, who would know if he killed Xia Chen here today? You know, the dead can't talk. Xia Chen? No way? No way? Could it be that someone really thought that his strength, which he had not used even 1/10 of, was his full strength? Seeing Buggy's annoying look, Xia Chen really wanted to teach him a lesson. But after thinking about it, he decided to forget it. If Buggy is also dealt with, Luffy and the others will have no experience monsters later. So Xia Chen slightly retreated behind Luffy and Zoro. Stupid captain, third-rate swordsman, go. Let him see the strength of our Straw Hat Pirates. Luffy, Zoro. Although both of them were a little speechless, they all understood what kind of person Xia Chen was after spending this period of time together. Just bear with it when you are not strong enough. When you are strong enough. Haha. Then don't blame them for being merciless. Luffy turned to Zoro and said. Zoro, you don't have to go, leave this red nose to me, let me beat him up. I don't plan to go. Zoro curled his lips in disdain. In his opinion, Buggy is not the kind of enemy that requires the two of them to work together to deal with, just leave it to Luffy alone. Luffy nodded, looked at Buggy and smiled. Red nose, let me beat you up. Gomo. Luffy started his classic charged rubber pistol again. At this time, Buggy on the opposite side was so angry that he was about to fly. Damn Straw Hat Boy, you dare to keep calling him Red Nose, you really have a way to die. And that annoying Straw Hat, it's annoying to look at. Just when Buggy wanted to use a move to attack Luffy, suddenly a fist enlarged on his face. Bang! Hit the bullseye. Buggy spun backwards for several circles before stopping and lying peacefully on the ground. After a few seconds, his body trembled and he jumped up. His expression was a little confused. There was also a red fist mark, which seemed to be more suitable for the red nose. Just now, what was that? Extended arms. Oh, I am a rubber man who ate the rubber fruit, and my arms can be extended. Luffy answered enthusiastically after hearing Buggy's words. But then, a violent slap from nowhere hit Luffy on the head. Bang! Are you stupid? Tell others about your ability. Zoro yelled at Luffy. Luffy squatted on the ground and pursed his lips in grievance. What's the matter? He saw it all. Okay, Zoro didn't want to say anything anymore. There's nothing I can do about the clamp that can't be lifted up. Are you also a devil fruit ability user? You eat things that even dogs don't eat. Buggy said contemptuously. Hey! Instantly, Xia Chen and the other two all had black question marks on their faces. Then Luffy asked a soul-searching question. Then why did you eat it too? Are you a dog? I was an accident, understand? If it weren't for that damn red-haired bastard, how could I become a landlubber? Speaking of which, that bastard also has the same straw hat as you, so I hate you now too. Red hair. Luffy was very surprised to hear this, and asked Buggy directly. Are you talking about Shanks? This hat of mine was given to me by him. Hey! Buggy was a little surprised to hear this. Unexpectedly, this straw hat was really the straw hat of the person he hated the most. Damn it, the new and old hatreds added together, unforgivable. Instantly, Buggy's anger surged up. Split into pieces the clown's flying knife. Without saying a word, Buggy's hand split apart, holding a flying knife in his hand and heading straight for Luffy's hat. He wanted to pierce this hateful straw hat through. Luffy was so scared when he saw the flying knife coming towards his hat that his face turned green, and he instantly squatted down at a very fast speed. After standing up, he shouted at Buggy. What are you doing? Don't you know that this is my most cherished hat? Most cherished? You're hitting what you cherish most. The hand behind Luffy turned around and stabbed at Luffy again. Clang! The flying knife stabbed straight into Zoro's knife. Zoro looked at Buggy and said lightly. Didn't you hear my captain say that this is his most cherished hat? Why are you so stupid? Baki's hand slowly flew back, and then caught his arm, looking at the three people opposite with a bit of an ugly face. 1 against 3, I'm at a disadvantage. As a man who knows the current situation, Bucky always adheres to the principle of, is someone weaker than me? Go after him. Is he stronger than me? Sorry, the wind is strong and I am running away. So Buggy has already thought about retreating. Just when he was thinking about how to run away to look more domineering, a voice came from behind. Captain Buggy, we are here to help you. Buggy looked back and saw a savage riding a huge lion and a young man with side bangs on a wheel coming towards him. Buggy's face immediately showed joy. Machi, Kabeji. It's great that you are here. Come and kill these 3 guys with me. Run away? Impossible. 3 against 3, the advantage is mine. Uncle Buggy is so confident. At this time, Luffy and the other 2 were also attracted by the 2 people who had just arrived. Among them, Luffy's eyes fell on the lion under Machi's crotch. What a big lion! Such a plump and tender body looks delicious. Instantly, the lion Lucky felt a chill inexplicably, and always felt that something bad was going to happen. Zoro's eyes fell on the acrobat Kabeji, looking at the knife in his hand, and muttered. Swordsman? Interesting. And Xiachen's eyes were also on Kabeji at the same time, more precisely, on his side bangs. It's not a middle part? Bad review. Then Xiachen and the other 2 exchanged glances and instantly found their opponents. Luffy attacked Buggy, and Zoro also rushed towards Kabeji. Xiachen stood in front of the lion. Looking at such a huge lion, Xiachen couldn't help but have the same idea as Luffy. Yo! This lion looks delicious. Hey! You actually want to eat my Lucky? Machi was furious when he heard this. Then he commanded the lion under him and said. Leaky, slap this ignorant human to death. The huge claw slapped down towards Xiachen, but Xiachen didn't even blink. Just when he was about to hit him, Xiachen narrowed his eyes and disappeared in an instant. But Machi didn't know this. He thought that Xiachen, the boastful human, had been slapped to death, and laughed. What are you doing? It turns out to be a rookie. I thought you were so awesome. Just when he was happy, a faint voice came from behind him. What are you so happy about? Tell me so that I can be happy too. Machi was frightened out of his cold sweat instantly. He turned his head slowly and stiffly. Looking at Xiachen with a smile on his face, he felt a little scared. When did this man come up? If he attacked him at this time, wouldn't he? You know, he is a beast master. To put it nicely, this thing can communicate with animals, control animals, and has powerful strength. To put it bluntly, it is a waste that can do nothing without animals. If he does this, he will have to. Brother, I just laughed because I remembered something happy. Oh, what happy thing? Xiachen asked with a smile. My Li Ji gave birth to a little lion. Ma Chi answered seriously. Is that so? Xia Chen nodded. But, isn't it a male? It reproduces asexually, and males can also give birth. Ma Chi continued. Seeing his serious look, Xia Chen almost believed it. It seems that these pirates are also good at lying. They are almost catching up with him. However, Xia Chen did not continue to say anything, but said. Now, I want to watch their battle on the back of your lion. The view here is better. Is there any problem? No problem, no problem. Ma Chi replied hurriedly, and even said flatteringly. Do you want to let Leaky jump a little, so that you can sit more rhythmically? Don't say it, your idea is not bad. Xia Chen patted the lion under him and said. Come on, do a crab dance to cheer me up. Roar. It took only 1 second for the lion under him to change from the roar he made when he first heard Xia Chen's order to the current humming sound. Looking at Leaky lying on the ground, Ma Chi's eyes were full of heartache, but he didn't dare to say anything. God knows what he just saw. The man in front of him just flicked his finger, and Leaky fell to the ground. He could clearly feel Leaky's fear from the information Leaky conveyed to him. You said you had to be beaten before you learned your lesson, really? Okay, now hurry up and do the crab dance for me. You, go and tell it to dance. Xia Chen pointed at Ma Chi and said. Yes. I'll do it right away. Ma Chi responded immediately, but after a long while, he still didn't move. Hey? What do you mean? What I said is useless, right? Xia Chen looked at Ma Chi with a cold look. No, no, big brother, absolutely not. Ma Chi shook his head and waved his hands frantically. It's just, how do you do this crab dance? After a long while, Luffy and Buggy were fighting fiercely. Zoro and Kabeji were also fighting. As for Xia Chen, a lion was jumping left and right, swinging back and forth, with sweat dripping from its face. But it didn't dare to stop, otherwise the fierce spirit on its body would not be easy to talk to. But isn't it a bit inappropriate for a lion to imitate a crab? Xia Chen was happy at the moment, rocking and swaying while commanding and pointing out the world. Luffy, attack his lower body. Zoro, why don't you zoom in? Why are you always hiding there? Shut up! Luffy and Zoro shouted at the same time. But Xia Chen just curled his lips in disdain. He continued to babble. Just kidding, when did two bugs dare to order him to do things? As they listened, Luffy and Zoro ignored the chirping voice of Xia Chen next to them. Habit becomes nature. At this time, Luffy and Buggy were fighting back and forth, and Buggy even had a slight advantage. On the contrary, the situation on Zoro's side became clearer and clearer. With Zoro's strength, the acrobat Kabeji was already unable to keep up. After slashing Kabeji's attacking knife again, Zoro slowed down and made a starting gesture. I want to become the world's strongest swordsman. You will be my stepping stone to the world's strongest. Demon Slash. Instantly, Zoro seemed to turn into a ghost and appeared behind Kabeji in the blink of an eye. After a second or two, blood began to spurt from Kabeji's chest. At the same time, several wounds that penetrated deep into the bone marrow slowly emerged. How could I lose? After leaving a sentence, this first experience pack on Zoro's road ended his role. But he was still a little weak compared to Zoro, and he didn't play much of a role in training Zoro. As soon as Zoro inserted the knife into the hilt, Xia Chen's voice came over. Hey Zoro! Come up and experience the movement, the feeling of movement. Tisk, do you think I will be the same as you? Zoro looked disdainful. Luffy, hit him in the face. What are you doing? Zoro shouted loudly while sitting on the lion's head. Don't mention it, this shaking is really exciting. Luffy was immediately unbalanced when he saw this situation. He pouted and said unhappily, why can you all sit on the lion and shake? Only I have to fight with this Red Nose here. Then Luffy looked at Buggy and said, Red Nose, I'm going to beat you up quickly. I want to sit on the lion too. Bakey's face looked as ugly as if he had eaten a lump of food. He was just thinking that these two helpers could help him. How long has it been? One was licking and calling the boss, and the other was lying comfortably in the sun. It suddenly became a disadvantage of 1 against 3, which was a bit abstract. But it was not hopeless now. The two over there did not seem to have any intention of joining the battle. In this case, he would have a chance. If you want to blame them for being too confident, giving him the opportunity to defeat them one by one. Then Buggy's eyes condensed, and he split his lower body, and then let the lower body fly out like a pancake. At the same time, the toes of the lower body popped out a bayonet, which kept spinning and attacking Luffy. Split into pieces pancake. Luffy was startled by this and jumped up. At the same time, Luffy's straw hat also bounced up. Seeing this, Buggy narrowed his eyes, and his hand split out instantly, poking Luffy's straw hat with a throwing knife. Swish! The throwing knife went straight through Luffy's hat. My straw hat! Luffy shouted with horror in his eyes. You bastard! Luffy looked at his straw hat with a hole in it and shouted at Buggy angrily. Gah ha ha ha! Shanks' straw hat is as annoying as he is, and he shouldn't exist in this world. Gah ha ha! Bang! Luffy's fist hit Buggy's face, who was laughing, and knocked him out. I don't allow you to say that about Shanks. Luffy looked at the hold hat in his hand with heartache, then turned to Buggy. Both arms stretched back. Damn it, you bastard! Just as Buggy got up from the ground, he heard the sound of a bazooka. At the same time, 2 palms hit him hard on the chest. Instantly, a powerful force burst out, and he felt like he was hit by a pirate ship, and then flew into the sky. Seeing this scene, Xia Chen raised his eyebrows. Okay, Luffy, this time I solved Buggy without the help of others. But Luffy was still in a very low mood at this time, staring at the straw hat in his hand, and he was not interested in sitting on the lion. Luffy, don't put on your bitter face, your straw hat can be fixed by Nami. Hey! Xia Chen, are you serious? Nami can mend straw hats. Of course, don't underestimate our navigator, she is very versatile. But she went to look for treasure after she came up just now, so you may have to wait. Xia Chen smiled faintly. That's great. After that, Luffy also jumped up, and then shook hard on the lion's back. Then when Nami came up after secretly moving the treasure, she saw this magical scene. A lion was dancing a strange dance, and there were 4 people sitting on it, 3 of whom were the ones he knew, and the other one was standing aside in fear like a quail. Seeing this situation, Nami couldn't help but ask blankly. Where is Buggy the clown? I beat him away. Luffy said happily. Beat him away, by you. Nami's eyes widened, that was a pirate with a bounty of 15 million berries. 15 million is fine, so is the 20 million dragon also. At this moment, many thoughts flashed through Nami's mind, but she didn't say them in the end. Okay, since the goal has been achieved. Then we will set off. Xia Chen slowly stood up from the lion's back. By the way, Nami, does Buggy have a map of the East China Sea? Hey? How do you know? Secret. Xia Chen smiled meaningfully. Hearing that they were about to leave, Luffy on the side pouted unhappily and said. What? I haven't had enough fun yet. The villagers in this town are not here now. If we get tired of playing, we won't even have a place to eat. We have to rely on ourselves. And there is not much meat left in my space now. If we don't go to the next island to replenish it, there will not be enough for us to eat later. Xia Chen looked at Luffy and said lightly. Luffy stopped his action instantly after hearing this, and then said to Xia Chen with a serious face. Then let's go quickly. Looking at the speed of Luffy's expression change, Xia Chen couldn't help but marvel. It seems that Luffy is still easy to distinguish the importance when it comes to meat. By the way, Nami, my straw hat is punctured, can you help me fix it? Nami was stunned for a moment after hearing Luffy's words, then nodded and said, "Sure." "Really? Thank you so much." Luffy grabbed Nami's hand and said excitedly, "Hey, don't grab it so hard, it will hurt." "Oh, sorry." After a while, the novel was taken from the Reliz website. Close where you're reading it and support us on our website for more free novels. On the pirate ship of Buggy the Clown, a huge roar came. "What? You left a bag of treasure for the villagers on the island?" Nami grabbed Luffy's collar and shook him hard and said, "Yes, the damaged buildings on the island need to be repaired by Barry, right? It's okay to leave a bag of treasure for them." Luffy explained. "What do you mean nothing? That's my treasure. I worked hard to get my treasure, you know," Nami said as she shook Luffy's head up and down in the water. Then you go find, they want to come back," Luffy said incoherently. "How can you do that, bastard? Ha ha ha." Xia Chen and Zoro couldn't help laughing at this scene. As Xia Chen had guessed before, it was really fun to be a member of the Straw Hat Pirates. "I'm looking forward to the days to come." A few days later, Xia Chen and others finally saw the new island, which made them very happy. Especially Luffy, who even drooled when he looked at the island. He kept muttering, "Meat, meat, meat." Xia the meat in Chen's space had been eaten up 2 days ago, and they had been eating fruits to fill their stomachs these 2 days. They were almost forgotten, even Xia Chen felt so. This also made him firm up an idea. In the future, he had to prepare more meat in the system space, otherwise it would not be enough. After a while, the boat slowly approached the shore. The group jumped down directly, and Luffy ran around excitedly, still muttering about meat. Zoro sighed as he stepped on the land. "It's been a long time since I've been on land." Nami took out a sea chart and observed it. As for Xia Chen, his attention was focused on the system sound he had just heard. Ding! Successfully punched in Ziluabia village, and obtained Conqueror's Haki, primary. Hey! It's really what you think. I was still thinking about why I didn't punch in Conqueror's Haki before, but I didn't expect it to appear on the next island. Okay, Xia Chen is very satisfied with the nature of the system. In this way, he has all 3 colors of domineering, and he just needs to wait for it to improve slowly in the future. He should be considered a little master now. Just as Xia Chen was thinking, a roar came from the distant hills, and he turned his eyes involuntarily. "Hey! You pirates, how dare you come to the village ruled by my captain Usopp? Don't you know that my 80 million subordinates can drown you with a spit from each of them?" At the same time, countless flags began to stand in the grass on the mountain, which looked really impressive. Seeing that Xia Chen and the other 3 were a little confused, Usopp thought they were fooled by him, so he continued. "But I am a merciful pirate. If you are willing to retreat now, I can show mercy and let you go." After saying that, Usopp looked at Xia Chen and the others quietly, full of momentum, but the sweat on his forehead proved that he might be a little weak at the moment. Xia Chen couldn't help but want to laugh at this scene. He is really worthy of being the bragging King Usopp. But, you have to brag a little more realistically. 80 million subordinates, why don't you go to heaven? It seems that I have to teach Usopp how to brag, so that he knows what it means that there are people beyond people and there are heavens beyond heavens. Thinking of this, Xia Chen smiled and said to Usopp, "You actually have 80 million subordinates? So powerful." Xia Chen showed an amazed expression. Nami, who was standing next to him, turned her head and looked at him in confusion after hearing what Xia Chen said. How could you believe such a boast? However, when she saw the hint of amusement on Xia Chen's lips, she felt that there might be something fun to watch. Xia Chen continued, "Hello, my name is Gold Xia Chen, and I am the nephew of the Pirate King Gold Roger. However, I don't have as many subordinates as you, probably only tens of thousands. Of course, this is nothing compared to the number of your subordinates, Captain Usopp, but there are some very powerful people among my subordinates. There are several with bounties exceeding 1 billion. Xia Chen paused here, and then said to Usopp with a hint of teasing. By the way, I would like to ask how many of your 80 million subordinates, Captain Usopp, have bounties exceeding 1 billion. I guess there must be a lot, right? 1 billion. 1 billion. Usopp didn't hear what Xia Chen said at all, and the word 1 billion echoed in his mind. In an instant, cold sweat wet his back, and sweat on his forehead kept dripping, and his legs and feet were shaking unconsciously. It's a lie, isn't it? How can someone with a bounty of 1 billion exist? Usopp said tremblingly. In fact, he also thought whether Xia Chen was lying to him, but he suddenly remembered that Pirate King Roger was indeed from the East China Sea. Maybe Xia Chen could really be his nephew. At this moment, Xia Chen, who obviously didn't look like Roger at all, looked quite alike in Usopp's eyes. Then his subordinates. Isn't it very likely that there are followers of the Pirate King? Thinking of this, Usopp felt sick. He is just a braggart, don't give him such a heavyweight thing. Don't you know that he will have a heart attack when he hears about the Pirate King? Sigui, Xia Chen, you are actually the nephew of the Pirate King? Why haven't I heard you say it before? Luffy looked at Xia Chen with shining eyes. His eyes were full of excitement. Idiot, you know it's fake when you hear it, right? Zoro said contemptuously while looking at Luffy. After spending some time together, he has completely understood what kind of bird Xia Chen is. In Zoro's opinion, Xia Chen is very mysterious and always knows something he has never heard of. He is also very strong, and of course, he is also very good at deceiving people. In this situation, it can be seen that Xia Chen is bragging. His sword can see this problem. Only Luffy, an idiot, would believe it so easily. Hey, Zoro, don't talk nonsense. I admit that my name is not Gold Xia Chen, but it is an ironclad fact that I am the nephew of Pirate King Roger, okay? Xia Chen looked at Zoro and said dissatisfiedly. Ace is Roger's son, and Luffy is Ace's younger brother, so Luffy is Roger's nephew, right? And he is Luffy's vice-captain, which can also be said to be his brother, so he is Ace's brother. Therefore, we can get, the inference is established. So, he is Roger's nephew. There is nothing wrong with it. Even if Roger himself was here today, he could not deny that he was his nephew. You are Roger's nephew. Nami next to him looked at Xia Chen with a pale face, her eyes full of shock. She boarded a ship casually and there was actually a nephew of the Pirate King? What kind of fantasy plot is this? Zoro was not confident when he saw Xia Chen's confidence. Could it be that he was not bragging? Usopp in the distance was even more panicked after hearing these words. He sat down on the ground. It seems that there is no escape. The man is really Roger's nephew. It's over. How can he stop such a vicious pirate? But after thinking for a few breaths, Usopp's eyes gradually became firm. Even if he knew that the pirates on the other side were terrible, he was scared to death. But no matter what, he couldn't let these people destroy the village he cherished. Unless you step over his body first. Thinking of this, Usopp gradually stood up. Although his legs were still shaking, his eyes were more determined than ever. He pulled out the slingshot and shouted to Xia Chen and others. My slingshot is more powerful than bullets. If you don't want to die here, then retreat quickly. Hearing this, the smiles on Xia Chen and the other two's faces slowly disappeared, and then they all looked at the cliff. Usopp. Luffy pressed the straw hat on his head, and then said lightly. Since you have decided to fight, you must be determined to die. Luffy's voice kept echoing in Usopp's ears, repeatedly destroying the psychological defense he had just established. After a while, Usopp finally couldn't hold on, the slingshot in his hand fell to the ground, and he fell to the ground again. A layer of cold sweat had seeped out of his forehead, and he said helplessly, "Is this a real pirate? To put it bluntly, it's extraordinary." Puff. Ha ha ha. Seeing Usopp like this, Xiachen and the other two couldn't help laughing. Luffy said, "This is what I heard from a pirate I respect, not what I said myself. By the way, is your name Usopp?" "Hey." Usopp was stunned and asked blankly. "Do you know me?" "I guess so. Your dad mentions you in front of me every day." Luffy said with a faint smile. "My dad? Do you know my dad?" Usopp stood up in surprise and asked Luffy. "If your dad is Jesus, then I know him." Yes, my dad is Jesus." "How do you know him? Can you tell me?" "Sure, but I have to go eat some meat first." "In a tavern in Ziluo village." "So, my dad was on red-haired Shank's ship?" "Yes. If nothing unexpected happens, he should still be there now. According to what I know about Jesus, he is a brave pirate," Luffy said while eating meat. Hearing Luffy praising his dad, Usopp's mouth was about to split open with laughter. "Of course, my dad is the bravest. I admire my dad's courage to throw himself into the sea the most." "Ha ha ha, me too." Luffy laughed. With the relationship with Jesus, Usopp quickly became friends with Xiachen and others. It looked like they had known each other for many years. After a while, Nami said, "The purpose of our coming to this island is to find a partner who can drive a boat and see if we can get a bigger boat." After hearing this, Usopp was silent for a moment, then looked out the window and said, "You can see that this is just a small village, and it is impossible to get the things you said." "Hey? Really? But I see there is a big manor on the hill," Zoro said puzzledly. That won't work." Usopp shook his head vigorously, then turned to Xiachen and others and said, "Well, I suddenly remembered that there is something important, so I'll leave first." After saying that, Usopp hurriedly ran outside. "What is he doing?" Luffy stretched his head out in confusion. "Who knows? Maybe he's going to brag," Xiachen said lightly after taking a sip of wine. Of course he knew why Usopp left at this time, it was nothing more than telling stories to Kaya. Since Kaya's parents passed away, it was Usopp who told her stories every day to prevent her from becoming weaker. Therefore, telling stories to Kaya became one of Usopp's daily tasks. And if nothing unexpected happens, they will go to see the situation later. Thinking of this, Xiachen's eyes showed an interested look. "By Kuro, this is one of the high IQ pirates in One Piece recognized by Mr. Oda himself. It's just a pity that his strength is a little weak." Just when Xiachen was still thinking, a noisy sound came from the side, which attracted his attention. "I saw 3 children who were less than half his height staring at them. Although their legs and feet were shaking constantly, they still questioned them. What did you do to Captain Usopp?" "Ah, I'm so full," Luffy said comfortably while touching his stomach. And this action of touching his stomach and this comfortable sigh instantly made the 3 children next to him think of something bad. He asked tremblingly, "You won't?" He, Xiachen and Zoro laughed evilly, then put on a terrifying look and said to them, "Your captain was eaten by us." Ah, they screamed in fear, but they didn't dare to say anything when they saw Zoro and Xiachen's terrifying looks. Finally, they found Nami, who looked kinder and said, "Tigress, why are you looking at me?" "Hey! It turned out to be fake. We were scared to death. We thought Captain Usopp was really eaten by you." The 3 of them wiped the sweat from their foreheads and said with lingering fear, "He ran out in a hurry halfway through his meal." Do you know where he went? Zoro looked at the three of them and asked. I know, at this time, Captain Usopp should be. Come with us. The three of them ran outside. Xia Chen was a little helpless watching this scene. Was it because he had been with Usopp for a long time? Why were they all so impatient? But they didn't say much, and followed the three of them in a certain direction. After a while, the group came to the wall of the manor on the hill. The onion head among the three pointed inside and said, Captain Usopp should be inside now. In here? Okay. Luffy moved his arms, then ran to the front of the fence, grabbed the top of the railing with both hands, and hung himself down. Zoro and Nami were shocked when they saw this scene. Hey, you don't want to? Before they finished speaking, the two of them ran over and held Luffy, and then the three little ones next to them saw this situation and went over to help hold him down. Mom and Dad said that when you don't know what to do, just watch what the people around you do and follow them. Then, the 6 people flew into the sky. At this moment, the three of them had only one thought in their minds. Maybe, what Mom and Dad say is not always right. Xia Chen couldn't help shaking his head as he watched the 6 people flying happily in the sky. The fence is so low, why do you have to climb over it in this way? I don't understand. Xia Chen jumped lightly and jumped in. After standing firm on the spot, he exuded the domineering aura of observation, and after sensing his familiar breath, he slowly walked in that direction. A few minutes later, when Xia Chen arrived at the destination, he just saw Usopp punching Con La's face. Oh, no, it should be Crabadle. After Crabadle fell to the ground, he kept insulting Jesus Bulletin, which made Usopp want to punch him again. At the critical moment, it was Kaya who stopped Usopp. Before Crabadle was exposed, Kaya still trusted and appreciated him very much. But Usopp was also her good friend, and she didn't want to see a conflict between the two. In the end, with Kaya's intervention, Usopp finally did not attack him, but walked to the back alone in silence. Crabadle saw that Usopp had left, and said to Luffy and others, "Please get out immediately." Xia Chen was unhappy when he heard this. "Damn it, I just came over. I haven't watched the excitement for a minute, and you want me to leave now?" And he was a little unhappy with Kuro. This is the most important thing. And he was a person who taught a lesson on the spot when he was unhappy with anyone, unless the opponent was stronger than him. A strong aura of oppression emanated from Xia Chen, crushing towards Kuro. Instantly, Kuro felt as if his spirit was hit by a sledgehammer, and then his head went dizzy, and he lost consciousness. He collapsed to the ground. Xia Chen was not surprised that his conqueror's haki could stun Kuro. It would be strange if he couldn't stun him, because he was not a fake. And Kuro was just a pirate with a bounty of 16 million. This kind of strength might be able to dominate the East China Sea, but in the New World, it is just the level of a miscellaneous soldier. At this stage, even Luffy and Zoro can't resist Xia Chen's conqueror's haki. After all, the two of them are the same as Kuro now, both are miscellaneous soldiers. Seeing Kuro fall to the ground, Kaya hurriedly shouted, "Hurry up, Butler Crabate has fainted." Looking at the increasingly noisy manor, Xia Chen did not say anything, but said to Luffy and others, "We've seen enough of the excitement, let's go." Walking on the path in the village, Zoro looked at Xia Chen next to him with a questioning look in his eyes. "Just now, was it you who made the butler faint?" "It wasn't me, don't talk nonsense, how could it be possible?" Xia Chen quickly answered with one key 3 times. "He should have fainted because of anemia. How could I have the strength to make him faint without touching him?" Xia Chen looked at Zoro with an expression of "I don't know anything, it's definitely not me." Seeing Xia Chen's expression, Zoro became more suspicious. "I always feel that it was Xia Chen who did it. Not to mention that the butler looked full of energy, how could he be anemic? Just the fact that you are so hasty to deny your words is worthy of suspicion. But this is indeed just his guess, there is no substantial evidence, he just thinks Xia Chen is a little suspicious. Xia Chen ignored Zoro's eyes, turned to Luffy and said, I have something to do, I will separate from you for a while. What? Xia Chen, do you want to go out secretly without me? Luffy asked with a pout. Xia Chen was upset when he heard this. He said unhappily. Can you think of anything else besides playing and eating? So what are you going to do? Nami interrupted and asked. Secret. Xia Chen smiled, and then disappeared instantly. Strange, monster. The three little ones were so scared that they collapsed to the ground when they saw this scene. Although they are not very big, they have never seen such a person disappear instantly. Tisk, relying on their own strength, they always do this mysterious trick. Zoro said disdainfully. But why do I feel a sour smell in the air? After a while, Xia Chen came to a coast of the island. There was a pirate ship parked here at this time. Xia Chen could hear the shouting from the ship even though he was standing on the top of a hill a few hundred meters away. That's right, this pirate ship was the one that Crow had been on before, and he came here for only one purpose. I've been a little short of money recently. He has been paying for the food, clothing, housing, and transportation of all the people on the ship, and the little bit of berry he got from Alrita has been almost gone. Later, the treasures from Monka and Buggy were all given to Nami. Although he could ask Nami for money if he had no money, he was not a man who liked to apply for money every time. It's better for men to control berry themselves. Xia Chen narrowed his eyes slightly, kicked his feet, and rushed out in an instant. When he came to the sky above the ship, Xia Chen did not hesitate and fell directly below. Landed steadily on the deck. The sudden sound made all the pirates' eyes turn unconsciously. Seeing an unknown person appearing on the ship out of nowhere, they were stunned for a few seconds at first, but soon a pirate shouted. Who are you and why are you on our ship? He walked towards Xia Chen while speaking. I'm a little short of money recently, and I want to ask you for help. Xia Chen said lightly. He looked around and saw that Zhang Jiao was not here. The people on the ship were all minions whose names he had never heard of. The pirates around were stunned when they heard Xia Chen's words. If they understood correctly, this kid was robbing? This experience made them feel a little strange. They had always been the ones who robbed others, and had never been robbed by others. This is the first time a young lady has been married. Ha ha ha. Boy, do you know where this is? Do you know who we are? A pirate looked at Xia Chen and grinned. Let me be merciful and tell you that this is the ship of the Black Cat Pirates, and we are the pirates of the Black Cat Pirates. You dare to rob our ship, you are very brave. If this ship is full of people like you, then isn't it normal for me to rob? Hey! Hearing this, the pirate was immediately angry, looking at Xia Chen fiercely and said. I hope you can still be so arrogant when I twist your head off later. After saying that, he rushed towards Xia Chen with his fist waving. Looking at the fist getting closer and closer, Xia Chen did not react at all, until the fist was about to hit him. Xia Chen slightly raised his hand. Swoosh! A black shadow flashed by. The pirate who was standing in front of Xia Chen just now had already flown into the sky, and then fell into the sea with a thud. Seeing this scene, the surrounding pirates instantly took a few steps back, perfectly demonstrating what deep friendship is. They didn't even see how Xia Chen attacked, and before they could react, their companion had already flying in the air. It's obvious that Xia Chen is much stronger than them. As a pirate, they know a truth. That is, a man who knows the times is a hero. Don't force yourself to fight an enemy you can't beat, otherwise you will just get beaten in vain. Hey! Xia Chen suddenly shouted at them, scaring them all over. Where is the treasure on your ship? Take me there. Hearing Xia Chen's words, a group of pirates looked at each other. You look at me, I look at you, but no one came out to take Xia Chen there. Helplessly, Xia Chen pointed directly at one of the pirates and said, you come and take me there. Ah? Me? The pirate shook his head around, trying to see if Xia Chen was referring to someone else. He didn't want to take Xia Chen there. Yes, it's you. Don't hesitate, take me there, or I'll throw you into the sea to feed the fish. Seeing that Xia Chen was really talking about him, the pirate had no choice but to walk out and take Xia Chen to the place where the treasure was placed. Hey? Since when did the treasure of our Black Cat pirates become something that an outsider can covet? Xia Chen had just taken 1 or 2 steps when 2 people jumped out from somewhere on the ship and landed behind Xia Chen. Xia Chen turned his head and looked at the pair of fat and thin fairy children, and ancient memories began to emerge in his mind. Then he asked uncertainly. Are you, Cat Brothers? Yes, I'm Sam. I'm Bushy. Since you know the names of our brothers, you still dare to come. I really don't know what to do. Puff. Before he finished speaking, the figures of the 2 instantly flew backwards and flew directly from the ship to the island. Xia Chen shook his hands and said disdainfully, why does a minor role add so much drama to himself? Then he turned his head and looked at the pirate before. Let's go, continue to take me there. Yes. The pirate shouted very loudly, with a tremor in his voice. Fortunately, he didn't seek death just now, otherwise his fate might be the same as that of the Cat Brothers. Even the Cat Brothers, who were stronger than him, were solved in an instant, not to mention him. Why are you shouting so loudly? Are you afraid that I can't hear you? Xia Chen glared at him, and he shrank his neck instantly. Then he said nothing and honestly led the way in front. When he came to the place where the treasure was placed, Xia Chen still let the pirate go out and stayed here alone. With a wave of his hand, the treasure on the ground disappeared. However, the Black Cat pirates were a bit poor, and these treasures were probably only a few million berries, less than 10 million. However, no matter how small the mosquito legs were, they were still meat. Treasures were something that was saved up little by little. After collecting the treasures, Xia Chen planned to leave here. However, when he was about to go out, a faint light appeared in his sight. This scene caught his attention. Xia Chen came to the place where the faint light was emitted and found that the light was emitted by a long yellow object. This made Xia Chen a little curious, and he couldn't help but pick it up and take a look. Cough. Cough cough. Xia Chen coughed hard several times. Damn yellow object, it turned out to be covered with dust. To be honest, it is amazing that the dust can accumulate to this extent. According to Xia Chen's estimation, it is unlikely to achieve this without several years. Xia Chen covered his nose and shook the thing in his hand a few more times. Finally, its original appearance appeared in front of Xia Chen. The moment he saw this thing, Xia Chen showed a smile at the corner of his mouth. I didn't expect that there would be an unexpected gain. Xia Chen held an iron rod about 2 meters long, which was black and very heavy. The material is also very good. Xia Chen has seen Zoro's Wado Ikemonji and found that the quality of this iron rod should be similar to that of this sword. In other words, the hardness of his stick should be no different from Zoro's sword. It is equivalent to a weapon of the level of a large sword. This discovery still made Xia Chen a little excited. Unexpectedly, the Black Cat pirates gave him such a surprise. In the past, when the great sage was remembering, there were many experiences about baton fighting, but because there were no bat-like weapons, those experiences were useless. He had originally planned to go to the shops in Rogue Town after this period of time to look for such weapons. But now, it was easy to get, and the material was so good, he was very satisfied. After throwing it into the system space, Xia Chen whistled and walked out. Today is a good day. The people are so happy, ah. Xia Chen came to the deck and took a look at the pirates on the ship. A few of them disappeared into the sky in a flash. At this time, all the pirates of the Black Cat pirates opened their eyes wide, and even almost popped their eyeballs. After a long time, someone stammered. Why, there are still people who can fly. After a while. Hey, Zoro, where is Luffy? Xia Chen suddenly appeared behind Zoro and patted him, which scared him instantly. After Zoro reacted, he yelled at Xia Chen, I say, you guy, can you not appear so suddenly all the time? Hey? What does it matter? Xia Chen spread his hands and said indifferently. So where is Luffy? He just went to find Usopp, Nami said on the side. Just when Xia Chen wanted to ask something, a terrified shout came from a distance. Pirates are coming, pirates are coming. Xia Chen and others were attracted to the sight, and saw Usopp running from a distance at this time, with a solemn expression on his face. When he passed by Xia Chen and others, he didn't respond even when Nami called him, and ran straight into the village. He just said, Pirates are coming. Nami asked uncertainly. Yes, he did say so. Xia Chen nodded. Is he lying? Didn't you say he often jokes in the village? Zoro asked the three children next to him. But the three people's faces were also very solemn at this time. After a while, Onion said. It seems a little different this time. The captain's face is very serious. We have never seen him like this. So, it is very likely that the captain did not lie this time. Pirates may really come. Xia Chen said, what is the truth? Let's go and see where Usopp just came from. Ah! The three children shrank back a few meters when they heard this, hugged each other and looked at Xia Chen tremblingly and asked. If there are really pirates there, won't we all die there? Don't worry, don't worry. Xia Chen waved his hand. Then he pointed to Zoro next to him and said. Do you see this green algae-headed brother? He is very strong and he will protect you. Several veins popped up on Zoro's forehead. There was a voice in his heart urging him to beat Xia Chen up. But after analyzing the difference in strength between the enemy and us, reason overcame impulse and silently withdrew his hand on the knife. A gentleman's revenge is never too late. When the group came to the coast, they did not find any pirates here. The three children said in confusion. Did the captain lie again just now? I didn't expect the captain's skills to be even better now, and even we were fooled. The three children thought they had discovered something, and a glimmer of wisdom flashed in their eyes. Suddenly, Nami seemed to have discovered something, pointing to a carrot stuck upside down at the foot of the mountain and said. Do you think that's Luffy? A few minutes later, a group of people surrounded Luffy one after another. This big brother, can't it be? One of the three children said with fear. But then everyone heard a faint snoring sound. Xia Chen walked straight towards Luffy, then grabbed Luffy's ankle and gently pulled it out. The carrot came out. But then something happened that stunned everyone. Luffy, who was pulled out, was still sleeping even when Xia Chen hung him upside down in the air, without any sign of waking up. Seeing this scene, even Xia Chen's mouth twitched a little. The sleeping gene of this monkey family is so strong, it doesn't wake up, so. Xia Chen narrowed his eyes, grabbed Luffy's hand and threw it out. Then he hit the rock wall heavily. Double exclamation mark. Everyone around looked at this scene in amazement, including Zoro and Nami. They subconsciously stepped away a few steps. Hey, what do you mean? Luffy is a rubber man, ordinary hits have no effect on him, you guys are making me feel like I did something. Seeing that the people around him were still like this, Xia Chen was a little unhappy. Since he was unhappy, then. Bang bang. Xia Chen, I'm going to chop you to death. What are they doing? Luffy asked, looking at the two figures fighting in front of him in a daze. Why did Xia Chen and Zoro fight again when he woke up? What else can we do? Friendly communication. Nami said lightly. Then she turned to look at Luffy. Why are you sleeping here? Oh, you're talking about this. Just now, Usopp and I saw the butler and another weird person talking here. They said something like they wanted to kill all the villagers tomorrow, and then I was discovered, and then I fell asleep. Falling asleep. Hearing this, Nami suddenly seemed to think of something. Is the weirdo you are talking about holding an iron ring? Yes, yes. I fell asleep after seeing his ring. I see. Nami touched her chin. Then he said. That man is a hypnotist. You must have fallen asleep because he hypnotized you. Searched him to death. Luffy clapped his hands and showed an expression of I see. Nami said, in that case, let's go back to the village first. Then he turned his head to look at Zoro and Xiachen who were still fighting over there, and shouted. Let's go, you two. Coming. Xiachen replied. Then he ran away directly, and after using a few shaves, he appeared next to Nami. On the other hand, Zoro was still more than 100 meters away. Zoro gritted his teeth and retracted the knife. This bastard! After a while, when the group was halfway back to the village, they happened to meet Usopp who came back in a daze. Everyone looked at Usopp and was confused, except Xiachen. Captain, here, here. Onion said to Usopp. Usopp put away the sadness on his face, and waved at them with a smile, it's you. However, when he saw Luffy, he was shocked and ran over to ask Luffy. Aren't you dead? Hey? Luffy was a little confused, but turned around and reacted. Yes, I just woke up. Just when Usopp wanted to say something, Carrot Head interrupted. Don't talk about this for now, we all heard about it from Straw Hat Brother, go tell the villagers about the pirates. Tell, the villagers. Usopp hesitated for a long time. Then he laughed and said. Of course, the pirates are fake as usual. It's all because of that bastard butler who is so annoying, so I said that to him. Ah ha ha ha. So that's it, we said it, how could there be any pirates? The three of them walked back while laughing. Usopp was keenly aware of their abnormality and asked, what are you doing? I suddenly looked down on the captain. Me too. In our opinion, the former captain would never say anything to slander others, no matter how much he lied, no matter how annoying the butler was. Oh. It's really boring, let's go home and eat. The three of them walked back while chatting. Usopp looked at the three people who were going away, and stood there for a long time thinking of their words, but in the end he didn't say anything, but the determination in his eyes did not diminish at all, but became stronger. At night, the sky was full of stars, and Xiachen and the other four and Usopp sat around a bonfire on the beach. Usopp looked at the burning flames with a wandering look in his eyes, and he didn't know what he was thinking. Xiachen asked, is the pirate thing true? It must be true, and they will definitely land on the island from here tomorrow. Must we land from here? Xiachen asked in a puzzled tone, and then asked pointedly. Are there no other places on the island similar to this one where we can land? Now that you mention it, there is a similar place in the north. We can also land there. In that case, let's split up into two groups. I'll go to the north alone, and the rest of you will stay here. Xiachen said lightly. You mean? Usopp's eyes showed a look of surprise. Do you still need to ask? Of course I will protect this island with you. Luffy said as a matter of course. Instantly, looking at the sincere eyes of the people around him, Usopp's tears could not stop flowing like a dam bursting. Thank you so much, thank you. Hey, no need to thank me, we decided to help you because you are so determined. If you don't have the courage yourself, then we will definitely not interfere. Xiachen said lightly. No wrong. Zoro also echoed, and then he changed the subject and looked at Xiachen and said. I can go to the north alone, you guys stay here. Hey! Hearing this, Xiachen looked at Zoro in confusion. Third-rate swordsman, you are a little overconfident. Let's not talk about your rubbish strength, just look at your directionlessness, you can find the north first. Clang! Zoro's knife was unsheathed in an instant, but Xia Chen didn't even look at him. Third-rate swordsman, not worthy of being his enemy. Zoro, let's do as Xia Chen said, we are here, Xia Chen goes to the north. Nami persuaded on the side. Indeed, Zoro, just listen to Xia Chen. Luffy also nodded beside him. Compared to Zoro, he still thinks Xia Chen is more reliable. Of course, it's not that he doesn't believe in Zoro's strength, but Zoro's road idiot attribute is indeed a bit. I won't say more, those who understand will understand. You guys. Zoro was a little dissatisfied. Isn't it just that you don't know the way? What's the big deal? Okay, then it's settled. The Zilobia village protection plan is officially launched. The next morning, Nami looked at the oil that Usopp found and was amazed. I didn't expect you to be able to find this thing. Of course, don't you look at who I am? I am the omnipotent Captain Usopp. But these pirates are a little slow. They haven't appeared at this time. Usopp asked puzzledly while looking at the scorching sun above. Are they joking? Usopp couldn't help but think of this, but he rejected it in an instant. Judging from the demeanor of the butler he saw yesterday, he didn't seem to be joking at all. Since it's not here, it should be. Usopp ran back and said to Luffy and others. They should have landed on the island in the north. Let's go to help Xia Chen. As soon as he finished speaking, he felt a red figure flash by, leaving only a sound. Okay, I'll go then. Seeing Luffy and Usopp going away, Zoro was about to rush over when he felt someone grabbing him from behind. Then, Nami, you bastard, let me go. Zoro lay on the oily ground and yelled at Nami. But Nami ignored him and smiled. Got it. After saying that, Nami climbed up on Zoro's back in front of Zoro's astonished eyes, saying, Thank you. Poor Zoro slid to the bottom of the slope with this step. He only left a sentence full of anger. That woman, I must kill her. At the same time, on the slope to the north, a group of pirates were gathering here, rubbing their hands in anticipation. We'll go in and kill all the villagers in this village. If we do it well, Captain Klo won't treat us badly. And you guys? Zhang Jiao paused here, then roared. Perform well. Last time I was away, you actually lost the treasure on our ship. Tell me, what are you good for? This is a good opportunity to make amends. Let's see if we can find some berries in the village to make up for our losses. Okay, that's all I have to say. Go ahead, guys. Zhang Jiao waved his hand. Countless pirates made different strange noises, and then rushed up the slope together. But when they rushed up the slope, they found a figure standing on the top of the slope. In an instant, they all had an idea in their minds. Where did this fool come from? How dare he block our way? But when they saw who was standing on the top of the slope, their attitudes took a 180-degree turn. The expressions on their faces changed from ferocious to fearful in a second. Then they all ran back at a much faster speed than before. They looked like they wished their parents had given them 2 fewer legs. At this time, Zhang Jiao was still sighing. Alas, it's a good thing that Captain Klo didn't get the treasure, otherwise he would have killed us if he knew we lost the treasure. Bang, bang, bang. Just when he was still indulging in the sadness of losing the treasure, he suddenly felt a vibration coming from the ground. What is this? Zhang Jiao looked forward as if he had realized something, and saw a group of people rushing towards him, and they were only a few meters away from him. You! Before he finished speaking, he was hit into the sky by the crowd and fell on the beach next to him. A few seconds later, he jumped up. Looking at the group of pirates in front of him who were crouching and huddled together, he instantly became angry and roared. What the hell are you doing? But the pirates seemed not to hear him, and no one responded to him. In an instant, his anger grew even stronger. Damn it, you lost my treasure some time ago, but now I ask you to attack the village and you are so hesitant, right? He looked at the group of pirates and cursed angrily. Look at what you look like now, do you still look like pirates? What on earth can scare you like this? After saying that, he turned his head to look at the top of the slope, and saw a boy about 17 years old standing at the top of the slope looking at them with a faint look. Zhang Gao looked at Xia Chen for half a minute. No matter how he looked at him, he felt that Xia Chen was just an ordinary person, with nothing special about him. If there was anything special, it was that this boy was very handsome. In a short period of time, many things came to his mind. Judging from the attitude of his men, they should be very afraid of the boy above. Why were they afraid? There was only one answer, that is, this boy was the one they said came to their ship to take away their treasures. Thinking of this, Zhang Gao's anger could no longer be suppressed, and his eyes were fixed on Xia Chen. Damn it, it's too much. First, he took advantage of his absence to rob their treasures, and now he dared to block their way. If the tiger doesn't show its power, do you think I'm Hello Kitty? 2 iron rings appeared in Zhang Gao's hands, and he was going to teach this person a lesson. Ah! Just as he was about to launch an attack, 2 strange screams came from behind him. Hearing this voice, a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. It seemed that he didn't need to take action. Catman brothers, go! Tear the kid on the top of the slope to pieces. Got it, Captain. Sam, one of the Catman brothers, laughed sinisterly, and then quickly ran out with Bushi. Seeing this scene, Zhang Jiao smiled happily. The Catman brothers were still reliable, unlike those useless people, who were all cowardly. A few seconds later, he looked at the 2 new members who joined the army of people holding their heads, and couldn't help but fall into deep thought. Just now, was it too early to say it? At this time, something even more annoying happened to him. Xia Chen, we are here to help you. Usopp ran over from a distance, followed by Nami. Ah, why are they all squatting on the ground with their heads in their hands? Usopp pointed at the group of pirates and asked in confusion. Who knows? Occupational disease. Xia Chen spread his hands and said. Where's Luffy? Why didn't he come? Usopp asked again in confusion. Isn't he with you? Why are you asking me? No, he was the first one to come over just now. I thought he had arrived earlier. Xia Chen couldn't help but hold his forehead when he heard this. This stupid captain. Forget it, it doesn't matter. Anyway, these pirates are not going to come up now. Usopp, I'll leave the hypnotist to you. Is there any problem? Ha! Usopp screamed instantly. Me? I may not be very good at it. To be honest, I have always had a disease that makes me die suddenly when fighting with others, so, then you go to deal with the pirates over there. You can't say you don't do anything, right? Xia Chen said lightly. It's not that he deliberately made things difficult for Usopp. It's really that Usopp really needs some experience in the early stage. Otherwise, the strength is really a bit embarrassing. This. Usopp's eyes kept switching back and forth between the 2 sides, and finally, he made a decision. He rushed towards Zhang Jiao below. Between 1-on-1 and 1-on-many, he still chose the option that seemed simpler. But the fact is that Zhang Jiao's skills are mostly in hypnosis, and his personal strength is not as good as that of the Cat brothers. Looking at Usopp rushing towards him, Zhang Jiao's face showed a trace of ugliness. Then he turned around and shouted at the group of pirates. Everyone, look at me. After I finish speaking, you will become very strong, and at the same time, your hearts will be full of murderous intent, and you just want to rush into the village and kill people. Come on, 1, 2, Zhang Jiao. In an instant, all the pirates on the ground stood up, and their eyes changed completely. Everyone's eyes seemed to be filled with violent murderous intent. Kill! A group of people roared, and then rushed to the top of the slope again. Usopp, who was halfway through the rush, turned around and ran towards Xia Chen desperately, hiding behind Xia Chen. Well, the plan to train Usopp failed. Xia Chen sighed helplessly. After confirming his eyes, he was a coward. Then Xia Chen looked at the pirates below, with a smile on his face. It seems that the lesson he taught them last time was not enough. Xia Chen narrowed his eyes, and just wanted to release the domineering aura to clear the field, but suddenly seemed to notice something and stopped. He turned and looked at the pirates rushing over with a smile. Xia Chen, hurry up, hurry up. Usopp, who was hiding behind Xia Chen, said in a trembling voice. Ah, what are you talking about? How can we beat so many people? Let's just wait to die. Xia Chen also pretended to be terrified and said. No, no way. Didn't Luffy and the others say you are very strong? Hearing Xia Chen's words, Usopp panicked instantly and asked with trembling legs. But what he didn't realize was that Nami, who was also cowardly next to him, didn't show any fear at this time, but only a trace of helplessness. Looking at the pirates getting closer and closer, an idea popped up in Usopp's mind. It's over. Gomu-Gomu, pistol. An outstretched arm came out from behind Usopp and hit a pirate running in front. The impact of the fist knocked the small group of pirates to the ground. Usopp's face suddenly showed joy, and he turned his head to look behind him. Luffy and Zoro were looking at them breathlessly. Hoo-hoo! Usopp, can you tell me which way is north next time? Luffy shouted. I saw you ran out first, I thought you knew. Usopp said helplessly. Don't you know why you ran so fast? Luffy's attitude was fine at this time, but Zoro next to him was really angry and stared at Nami. Nami, can you explain what you did just now? This, Nami's forehead was covered with a layer of sweat, and she waved her hand and said. 2 people falling down is better than 1 person falling down, right? Don't you think it makes sense? Then why don't you? Okay, let's stop talking, they are rushing in front of us. Before Zoro finished speaking, Xia Chen interrupted him. Hearing this, Zoro didn't say anything else, but stood in front of everyone with Luffy. Slowly pulled out the knife from his waist. In an instant, the two rushed out like arrows from a bow, fighting with many pirates. As time passed, due to the difference in strength, these pirates were beaten by Luffy and Zoro one by one. Zhang Jiao's face turned black when he saw this scene, and he cursed a bunch of useless things in his heart. Then he picked up the iron ring in his hand and aimed at Luffy, who was fighting, trying to sneak attack him. At this moment, a voice from a distance interrupted his action. What are you doing? This is, a lot of sweat oozed from Zhang Jiao's forehead. Captain Kuro. At the same time, everyone's eyes were attracted by this voice. I saw Kuro staring at the scene in front of him more than 10 meters behind Xia Chen. Seeing Klo like this, Zhang Jiao knew that he was very angry now, and hurriedly explained. Captain Klo, we are because. Enough, no need to say. I thought they would come to stop our plan, but I really didn't expect you to be such a waste. You can't even deal with a group of little ghosts. Bang! As soon as Klo finished speaking, the whole person flew out and fell heavily on the ground in the distance, and the glasses on his face were broken all over the ground. Everyone's eyes instantly looked at where Klo was standing, and saw Xia Chen standing there at this time, saying lightly. I am very happy that you can come to be our captain's experience monster, but I don't like the tone of your speech. The novel was taken from the Reliz website. Close where you're reading it and support us on our website for more free novels. So. I couldn't help but punch you, don't mind. The group of pirates over there were stunned at this time, and they all had the same idea in their hearts. What did they do just now? They actually wanted to cause trouble for this ruthless man? At this moment, even though they were injured, they couldn't help but feel lucky that it was not Xia Chen who attacked but Luffy and Zoro. Usopp was also stunned at this time. You are so strong, what's the meaning of pretending to be so scared in front of me just now? Mullet Row. When his sight returned to Xiachen, he saw that Kuro, who was lying on the ground, didn't say anything, but turned his head and walked towards Luffy. When he walked to Luffy, he said to him, "This butler is left to you." Sure enough, after Xiachen's voice fell, Kuro slowly got up from the ground. This is not to say that Xiachen's strength is not enough to knock Kuro down with one punch, but because he adheres to the concept of being an excellent vice-captain. Experienced monsters should be left for companions to eat, otherwise it will be like he said before. To deal with Kuro like this, you don't even need to use your hands, just release the domineering color domineering. Okay, then I'll leave those miscellaneous soldiers behind to you. After saying that, Luffy walked towards Kuro. Understood, Captain. Xiachen came to Zoro's side, stood side by side with him, and asked. Third-rate swordsman, I'll leave the Cat brothers to you, and I'll take care of the others. Zoro glanced at Xiachen with disdain, and said sarcastically. You can only deal with a group of miscellaneous soldiers? But it's understandable. After all, you're a rookie. Hearing this, Xiachen did not say anything, but looked at Zoro with a smile. Tisk only the weak will get their own satisfaction by mocking others. Obviously, he is a strong man, so he will not do such a thing. What? You said he also likes to mock Zoro? That's different. As he said before, he is a strong man. It is normal for a strong man to mock a weak man. This is not called seeking a sense of existence, but motivating partners. After assigning the opponents, Xiachen narrowed his eyes, and the next second, a strong momentum emanated from him. In an instant, those pirate minions fell to the ground one by one like dumplings. In an instant, everyone on the field was stunned. What kind of power is this? Usopp asked with a horrified look on his face. Luffy and the other two were also surprised to see this scene. They didn't know that Xiachen had this trick before. Zoro looked at this and suddenly seemed to think of something, and asked Xiachen. You used this trick to knock out the butler last time, right? And you said it wasn't you, you showed your Kun Jiao, Xiachen. Luffy shouted with stars in his eyes. Sai, I want to learn it too, Xiachen. You will learn it in the future. Xiachen smiled faintly. Really? Can I learn it too? Luffy was even more excited when he heard this. This trick is really cool. Of course. Xiachen said affirmatively. It's just that this time may be a bit long. Xiachen said the latter sentence in his heart, otherwise it would be bad to hit Luffy's confidence. Based on Luffy's current strength and spirit, his strength and courage are not enough to support him to awaken the Conqueror's Haki. He is not even qualified to practice any of the three colors of Haki. He is still too weak now. On the other side, CLO, who had just gotten up, had an urge to lie back down. Yes, it was this thing. He fainted like this last time, and he thought he had some physical problems. After waking up, he checked a lot, although he didn't find anything in the end. But he still thought that after the plan succeeded, he would go to a doctor to check his body. Unexpectedly, all this was caused by the man in front of him. At this moment, CLO made a decision in his heart instantly. Run! The man in front of him was so strong that he was afraid, and he was definitely not his opponent. Just when CLO was still thinking about how to escape, a voice came from behind. Crabadle, I didn't expect you to be a pirate, and you hit Mary so hard, I really misjudged you. This voice is... A hint of joy flashed in CLO's eyes, it seems that God wants him to escape this disaster. Silent step was performed, and CLO immediately rushed towards Kaya behind him. His hope of escape is in her hands. Given the relationship between Kaya and Usopp, if he threatens Kaya, they will definitely be cautious. This way he has a chance to escape. Where is she, Where did she go? Everyone present was confused when they saw Kuro disappear. But Usopp shouted to Kaya, "Kaya, run!" The moment he saw Kaya appear, he realized that something bad was going to happen. Although he couldn't see Kuro's whereabouts clearly, he always felt that Kaya was in danger. "I really am." Xia Chen next to him was speechless. It was true. In the end, he still had to do everything. He really had to be both a father and a mother. But it was understandable. After all, Kuro's silent steps were comparable to Shaven speed. It was normal for Luffy and others to not react at this stage. It is said on the internet that Oda said in SBS that the silent step is as fast as Shave. Please forgive me if it is wrong. So. Xia Chen disappeared from the spot in an instant, and appeared in front of Kaya the next second, and slapped Kuro. Even if he can match the speed of Shave, it is related to his own strength. People with weaker strength will definitely be slower when performing the same moves. Don't you see that the gap between ordinary CP9 and Lucci is like heaven and earth? And the gap in strength between him and Kuro is even greater than this, so even if Kuro is closer to Kaya, he will move faster. But it's useless. Luffy, watch your opponent. Oh, okay. Luffy hurried to Kuro after hearing this. Then he fought with Kuro. After a while, due to the gap in hard power, the battle between Zoro and the Cat brothers didn't last long and ended. On the other hand, Luffy's side was a bit difficult. Kuro's silent steps made him miserable, but as the battle progressed, he gradually caught up with the pace. This is the terrifying part about Luffy. He grows too fast in battle. The harder the battle, the greater the improvement for Luffy. Just like when he fought with Teacher Kai later, Luffy's strength would increase a lot with every blow. From the beginning of Ryuo to the middle of Tyrant, and finally to the awakening of the fruit. It's really a jump in strength. Although a big reason for this is that Teacher Kai taught well, it is also related to Luffy's talent. Seeing that he couldn't take down Luffy for a long time, Kuro also got angry. Then Kuro's hands dropped, and then his whole body swayed like a zombie. Spoon. As Kuro's voice fell, his figure instantly disappeared from the spot. Then he launched an indiscriminate attack on the surrounding environment. Luffy's body, the surrounding rock walls, the ground, and the pirates lying on the ground all became his targets of attack. Until... bang! A sound of a fist hitting the face came, and Crow flew backwards again. The only difference this time was that he never stood up again. Xia Chen really couldn't bear it this time. He had been worried about giving Luffy an experience pack, so he didn't get rid of Crow. But Ukid is a bit unruly. He provoked him again and again, and this time he actually attacked him. If he could bear it again, it would be unreasonable. So Xia Chen decisively used some strength and punched him. The result was, of course, that he fainted directly, and it was not surprising that he didn't die. Xia Chen was too lenient. So far, the plan to attack the village launched by Crow was officially broken. Ziluo village also spent a day peacefully like any other day. The next day, in the tavern of Ziluobia village. What a bunch of poor fellows the Black Cat pirates are. They don't even have a berry. Hey, Tui, it's really a shame among pirates. Nami said while eating an orange. Xia Chen, who heard this, just smiled faintly. It would be a miracle if you could find it. Doesn't that mean I'm not professional? Luffy and Zoro next to him didn't pay attention to Nami. One of them was busy eating meat and the other was busy drinking. Crack! The door of the tavern was opened, and Kaya walked in. When she saw Xia Chen and others, she smiled. You are here. Do you have time to come with me? I have a gift for you. Gift. Half an hour later. Wow! Luffy and Nami showed starry eyes like a dog. This is a light sailing ship. Are you really going to give us this ship? Luffy asked Kaya excitedly again. Yes, please accept it. Skokoaki, what a great ship. Luffy couldn't help but keep praising. Ah, help! Help me! A panicked scream in the distance attracted everyone's attention. I saw Usopp holding a ball. Oh, no, it should be a Usopp stuck under the ball rolling down the slope towards everyone. Is he performing acrobatics? Luffy asked in confusion. No matter what he is doing, stop him first, otherwise he will hit the ship. Xia Chen said lightly. The new ship that just got in hand can't be damaged by Usopp. Then Xia Chen and Zoro kicked Usopp in the face and helped him stop. Thanks, thanks. Oh, no thanks. After that, Usopp talked with Kaya for a while. When they finished talking, Usopp turned his attention to Xia Chen and others on the ship. Hey, I won't hold back if we meet on the sea in the future. Hey? What are you talking about? Why don't you get on the ship quickly? Xia Chen asked. Luffy also said on the side, aren't we already companions? Usopp was stunned when he heard this. Tears flowed unconsciously. You guys. After a while, he wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes and shouted. Captain, it's me. How is it possible, bastard? Everyone, the plot of Treasure Island is briefly mentioned. Then go directly to the next chapter. One day later. A certain area in the East China Sea, on the Golden Mary. Hey, Luffy, what the hell is this you're drawing? Xia Chen's mouth twitched a little as he looked at the pirate flag Luffy drew in front of him. Are you sure that what you drew is really a skeleton? Usopp, you draw it, this stupid bird captain is useless. Wakaka, I knew that I had to do the important things. Okay, leave it to me. Usopp patted his chest and promised. After a while, everyone looked at the pirate flag drawn by Usopp and smiled with satisfaction. Yo, this is indeed much better than Luffy's. Zoro said on the side. Indeed, ha ha ha. Swoosh. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew from the sea in the distance, causing everyone on the ship to look in a certain direction as if they had sensed something. An island covered by cumulus clouds appeared in front of the sea. This is... Nami's eyes flashed with shock, and then she said. No mistake, this is the Treasure Island, the island with a lot of treasures in the legend. Treasure. Luffy excitedly climbed to the bow and stretched his neck to watch from afar. Then he said to Nami. Then let's go quickly, I can't wait to find the treasure. After a while, the Mary slowly approached the coast, and after dropping anchor, everyone boarded the island together. At the same time, a familiar and pleasant voice sounded in Xia Chen's mind. Ding! Check into the Treasure Island successfully, the indestructible body of Vajra has been upgraded to the intermediate level. The moment the system prompt sound fell, Xia Chen felt an extremely powerful force surging from deep in his body. Even made his body a little unstable and staggered. Seeing this, Zoro couldn't help but ask, Hey, Xia Chen, what's wrong with you? Did you have a hangover from drinking last night? Such a loser. Hat, when it comes to drinking, 10 of you can't catch up with me. Xia Chen said disdainfully. But now he really has to sit down and adapt to the energy that keeps coming out of his body, so he said to everyone. I'll guard the boat, you guys go. After that, he appeared directly on the boat and walked into the cabin without looking back. What the hell is this guy doing? Zoro still looked suspicious. Luffy said, well, since Xia Chen doesn't want to go, let's go by ourselves. Treasure, treasure, here I come. The figures of the people gradually disappeared on the island, and Xia Chen on the boat finally adapted to the surging power in his body. After carefully feeling it, Xia Chen found that his current physique is at least 3 times more than before the breakthrough. Although it seems that the increase is not much, you have to know that Xia Chen's original physique was already very strong. Besides, a physique that is 3 times the original is not a simple 1 + 1 + 1 = 3. Now, even if he faces the 10 before at the same time, he can do it with ease. His strength has increased a lot. But to be honest, this Vajra indestructible body is really awesome. According to Xia Chen's current estimate, his physical strength at this time is almost the same as Luffy during the Onigashima period, and may even be a little stronger. If the increase in the high-level Vajra indestructible body is also so large, then it will even be stronger than Big Mom's steel balloon physique. This wave can only be said to be a great improvement in strength. This makes him more confident to face the next battle. It has been a while since he came to the One Piece world, and he has not tried how strong his full strength is. Now his estimate of his strength is all inferred based on his understanding of the original work. Whether this is the case remains to be verified. Thinking of this, Xia Chen smiled slightly. I am looking forward to it. After spending a day on the shipboard, Xia Chen finally heard the sound of Luffy and the others coming back. He walked out slowly from the deck. When Luffy saw Xia Chen, he yelled. Hey, Xia Chen, you are really at a loss for not coming today. We saw a lot of interesting things, such as an uncle who grew up in a box. Xia Chen listened quietly, occasionally interrupting and exclaiming. There were bursts of laughter and joy on the merry. The next day, Xia Chen was still sleeping in the cabin when he heard the shouting coming from outside. He walked out with sleepy eyes. As soon as he walked out, he saw Luffy and Usopp bowing to a person at 90 degrees. Johnny. Xia Chen said puzzledly. He still had some impression of these two little followers of Zoro. But now this is happening. What happened? After Xia Chen walked down and asked Zoro, he learned the cause and effect of the incident. In short, Johnny thought that Luffy and Usopp killed Joseph. That's why this happened. Xia Chen walked to Joseph calmly, and at this time he also remembered this plot. He said to the people around him. Hey, let's talk about it later. Now go to the cabin and take out those fresh oranges of Nami, otherwise this person will really die. You mean Joseph is not dead? Johnny asked Xia Chen excitedly after hearing this. Yes, not yet, but it may be later. So, hurry up and go. Xia Chen shouted at Luffy and Usopp for the last sentence. These two idiots don't know how to do things according to the situation, right? Yes, we will go right away. They straightened their bodies in an instant and ran into the cabin. Xia Chen turned his head and looked at Joseph and said calmly. He has scurvy. To put it simply, it is because he has not had a proper diet for a long time at sea. It leads to nutritional imbalance, and he will eventually suffer from this disease. After a while, when Luffy and his friend fed Joseph fresh oranges, his complexion began to slowly improve. Johnny's eyes lit up when he saw this scene, and he rushed over and hugged Xia Chen's thighs. Brother, I will never forget your kindness. Get out of here. So, nutritional balance is very important at sea, you know? Otherwise, there may be all kinds of problems. Xia Chen sat on the boat and popularized basic common sense with Luffy and his group of fools. Okay, in that case, let's find a chef. Luffy suddenly stood up and said loudly. Indeed. It makes sense. This time, no one among the crowd stood up to oppose Luffy. After all, what he said made sense. Hearing this, Johnny said. If you want to find a chef at sea, I have a place to recommend you. Really? Where? Johnny narrowed his eyes and said word by word. Barity, the restaurant at sea. Everyone, I see the restaurant on the sea. Luffy, who was sitting at the bow, suddenly turned his head and said to everyone on the ship. Hey! Everyone stood up in unison and looked at the looming ship in front of them. Xia Chen was also a little excited at this moment. He was actually a man who liked to enjoy food. Now that he finally came to the prestigious restaurant on the sea, he was also a little looking forward to it. Just when everyone's eyes were focused on the front, the sound of a ship breaking the waves came from the side of their ship. Looking back, I saw that a Navy warship was driving forward side by side with the Mary. Then, a man with a very showy appearance appeared in everyone's sight. This man, Xia Chen knew very well that he was one of the few extras he remembered very well. After all, this is a man with the title of Iron Fist like Garp. Iron Fist Hobadai. That's the strength, maybe a little. Garp, you are called Iron Fist, what level are you? You have the same title as me? Back to the topic, Hobadai was very upset looking at the pirate ship opposite. When did a group of pirates see him, a captain of the Navy headquarters, and not run away? Did they not take him seriously? In this case, he would show them some color. He summoned a navy with one hand and said to him, "Sink it." Hey! Xia Chen narrowed his eyes when he heard this on the merry. Boy, you are ugly, but you are also very courageous. You dared to say in front of him to sink the merry. You think he can't swing the stick, right? Although he did not intend to swing the stick. The next second, before the navy on the opposite side made any move, the domineering aura of the king's color came out of his body, and all the navy on the warship were stunned. Done. Done. Xia Chen is getting more and more comfortable with this conqueror's haki. The efficiency of cleaning up the soldiers is really amazing. Luffy, who saw this scene again, was envious again, with little stars in his eyes. Xia Chen, teach me this quickly. Didn't you say I could master it last time? I said later, not now. Xia Chen pouted lightly. What kind of strength is this? Don't you have any idea in your mind? Stingy guy, hum. Xia Chen. Why do I always have the urge to hit someone recently? A few minutes later, the Mary finally arrived next to Barity. Everyone couldn't help drooling on the ground at this time. Because of Xia Chen's intervention, the navy did not fire the shells, so Luffy did not damage the ceiling of Barity. So everyone came to the restaurant together to enjoy the food. Delicious food, delicious food. Luffy and Usopp both held a fork in their left and right hands and tapped the table rhythmically. After a while, a lot of exquisite food was served to everyone's table. Suddenly, the food on the table was reduced at a visible speed. Xia Chen was also eating with big mouthfuls at this time. The food made by Barity is different from that of other places, and it tastes much better. And since Nami pays for the meal now, it makes him eat more deliciously. I don't know why, when you don't have to pay for it yourself, even the food will become more delicious. Dong dong dong. Accompanied by the sound of shoes stepping on the floor, a man wearing a black double-breasted suit, a tie, yellow hair, and curly eyebrows walked towards them. Then he came to Nami gracefully, gently lifted her hand, and asked gently. My beautiful lady, may I have the honor to buy you a glass of red wine? Nami was confused by this sudden scene, but she said happily with the idea that it would be a shame not to take advantage of the opportunity. Okay, thank you, you are such a gentleman. Thank you for your compliment, I think so too. Asterisk. Xia Chen and Luffy were all speechless looking at Sanji at this moment. This person, is he shameless? Seeing this, Nami went too far and acted like a spoiled child to Sanji. The dishes here are quite expensive. Can you treat me to a meal? Seeing Nami's expression, Sanji's eyes instantly turned into hearts. He said flatteringly. Of course, miss. But this expression didn't last for a second, he turned around and said to Xia Chen and others. You can't. Do you dare to be more hypocritical? Xia Chen was still concentrating on eating. What does this have to do with him? Even if Nami doesn't have to pay for her meal, Nami has to pay for his meal. So, no matter what, it won't affect him. This is... No way, could this be? Suddenly, the other guests in the restaurant burst into unbelievable shouts, looking out the window with fear in their eyes. Suddenly, everyone's eyes were attracted. Except for Luffy and Xia Chen, they were still eating at this time. But even if Xia Chen didn't look at anything, he knew what was happening outside. Observation haki is not for free. With a creaking sound, the door of the restaurant was pushed open from the outside. Two men walked in, supporting each other. Both of them were very weak at this time, and fell to the ground after a few steps. He pleaded with everyone in a thin voice, "Give me something to eat, we are almost starving to death." "Impossible. What are you like in the Crick Pirates? Don't you know it yourself?" A burly chef jumped out and said. "All the comments about you on the sea are words like mean villains. Get out of here quickly. Barity doesn't welcome you." After the words fell, Crick Inogen, who fell to the ground, did not react at all. At this time, they were already at the end of their strength. He was so hungry that he had no strength at all, but he kept begging. "Give me something to eat." The rough-looking chef Paddy was still constantly attacking Crick and the others, constantly yelling to get out. If other chefs hadn't stopped him, Xia Chen had no doubt that he would have thrown them out himself. At this time, Sanji watched this scene silently on the side, speechless for a long time. After a while, Sanji turned and walked towards the kitchen, and then there was a clanging sound in the kitchen. 10 minutes later, Sanji brought a large bowl of fried rice and placed it in front of Click and the others, lit a cigarette, took a deep puff, and slowly said, "Come on, eat." Click and Kin looked up at the same time, and Click picked up the rice in front of him and ate it crazily without saying anything. Kin hesitated for a long time and then said thank you before he started to eat. The two sat on the ground and ate without any image. After Crick had eaten his fill, he slowly stood up and looked at Sanji in front of him with scrutiny in his eyes. Then he slowly said, "Now, go prepare 100 servings of food for us. My companions are almost starving to death." Sanji did not move after hearing this, but looked straight at Crick. After a long time, when the atmosphere between the two could no longer stand still, Sanji slowly answered with one word. "Okay." Then he turned around and walked into the kitchen. Paddy was furious when he saw this scene, and he yelled at Sanji directly. "What are you doing? We don't have the tradition of giving free food to others here." Sanji did not look back, but a faint voice came over. "We are chefs. You guy." Paddy was still very angry. No, he was going to teach these pirates a lesson and let them know that Barity is not easy to mess with. Just as he was about to go to trouble Crick, a voice stopped him. "Do as he says." A middle-aged man with a broken leg, wearing a chef's hat and a signature beard on his face came over and said, "Chef, but do as I say." Before Paddy finished speaking, GP had interrupted him. So he could only go to the kitchen unwillingly to get busy. Crick on the opposite side looked at GP and saw that he looked more and more familiar. Suddenly, he seemed to think of something and said in disbelief, You are red-footed GP." GP did not answer him, but looked at him quietly as always. The expression on Crick's face kept changing, from surprise to fear, and then to calmness in the end, and then he slowly said, "Even if you are red-footed GP, how much strength do you have now that you have lost this leg? I am officially notifying you now that I want your boat. I came here only for the boat and food, so don't do anything extra, otherwise you will bear the consequences." After saying that, Crick walked out directly. Xia Chen looked at this scene indifferently at this time, and he was completely disdainful of Click's remarks. With them here, Click's plan would not succeed. But he still wanted to eat Barity's delicacies. What if Click ruined it? For a period of time after this, since Luffy had always wanted to invite Sanji to join, they naturally stayed here. Xia Chen was sleeping soundly in the cabin at this time. He knew that Sanji would not agree to board the ship before experiencing some things. So there is no rush, just wait slowly. Until... Boom! A loud sound came from outside, and Xia Chen slowly opened his eyes. Slowly sitting up and looking in a certain direction, even if there were objects blocking him, he felt the breath, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. "Are you here?" At this time, outside, the people of the Click Pirates just wanted to get off the ship to grab Barity, but the middle of the ship began to break apart. The cut surface was as smooth as a mirror. At the same time, a small boat slowly approached from a distance. A person who suddenly appeared attracted everyone's attention, especially Zoro. Dense sweat oozed from his forehead. He is Hawkeye. Ah, who is that? Luffy asked puzzledly. Zoro's slightly excited voice came. He is my target for going out to sea, the person I want to defeat, the strongest swordsman in the world. Shikokueki. The strongest swordsman in the world. Luffy and others also looked at Hawkeye over there. At this time, Zoro couldn't help it and jumped directly onto the wreckage of a ship. He shouted at Hawkeye. Hey, Hawkeye, I want to challenge you. Hey. Hawkeye raised the brim of his hat slightly after hearing the voice, looked at Zoro and said. You are too weak, you don't have the qualifications. Tisk is the world's #1 swordsman, a person who can only talk with his mouth. Come and compete with me if you have the ability. Zoro said provocatively. I don't know if you are overconfident or ignorant, but since you want to die, I will give you this opportunity. As soon as the voice fell, Hawkeye jumped over from the boat in an instant. Looking at Zoro, he said coldly again. If you are a first-class swordsman, you should be able to feel the gap between us. But obviously, you are not, so. Hawkeye slowly took off the cross pendant on his neck, pulled out a small knife from it, and then said lightly. Sorry, I really don't have a smaller knife than this. Damn it, you are too insulting. Zoro roared, and then rushed towards Hawkeye with a demon slash. Then, his expression turned into deep astonishment. How is this possible? Zoro's 3 swords were blocked by Hawkeye's small knife, and they could not move forward at all. What, brother's demon slash was blocked? That is obviously a big move that is 100% sure to hit. Johnny and Joseph said in horror. Isn't this normal? Who do you think the man on the opposite side is? He is the world's #1 swordsman. Xia Chen, who came to their side at some point, looked at Hawkeye and said lightly. Brother Xia Chen. Look carefully, this is Zoro's battle. Looking back at Zoro, he now feels that his worldview has been greatly impacted. Is the gap in strength so big? Is the distance between worlds so far? Then Zoro began to attack continuously, but no matter how he attacked, Hawkeye easily blocked it with the knife in the end. As time passed, Zoro's heart gradually sank to the bottom of the valley. How can I be played with by something like a toy? Zoro took a step back and posed. Tiger. Puff. The sound of a sharp blade cutting through the wound came, and Hawkeye had come to Zoro without knowing when, and the knife had pierced his chest. Hey! Hawkeye showed an unexpected expression on his face. Why don't you retreat? Aren't you afraid of your heart being pierced? Because I have a reason not to retreat, even if I die. I can't lose. Hearing this, Hawkeye's pupils slightly dilated, and a look of shock flashed across his face. At this moment, he re-examined the man in front of him, and the faith emanating from him at this moment was so dazzling. Hawkeye took a few steps back, put away the knife in his hand, and pulled out one of the 12 supreme swords behind him. Black Sword Knight. My long-lost strong man, to show my respect for you, let me bury you with this black sword. Zoro smiled when he heard this. Just what I want. Then the 2 knives kept spinning in his hands. 3,000 worlds. The 2 figures crossed each other, standing still. A second later, Zoro suddenly knelt on the ground, and the 2 knives broke directly. He lowered his head and muttered to himself, is this the world's #1 swordsman? Zoro stood up and turned his head, opening his hands. What do you mean? Hawkeye was stunned for a moment. The scar on the back is the shame of the swordsman. Interesting, kid. Hawkeye smiled, and then slashed the black knife in his hand at Zoro. A huge wound tore open from Zoro's chest. The recoil force directly chopped Zoro into the sea. Zoro! Luffy shouted, and then wanted to run to Hawkeye to fight. But he was pulled down by Xia Chen. Calm down, Zoro is not dead yet. Hey! Luffy's expression instantly changed to surprise when he heard this. He just thought Zoro was dead. Xia Chen looked at Hawkeye calmly, and the fighting spirit in his eyes slowly rose. Zoro's battle was over, and it was his turn next. He had been waiting for this battle for a long time, and had always wanted to verify his own strength but had no opponent. And Hawkeye in front of him was completely strong enough, just right for him to try his hand. At this time, Hawkeye, who slowly inserted the black knife back behind him, seemed to feel something and turned his head to meet Xia Chen's sight. Xia Chen smiled slightly, and the next second, his figure flashed and appeared opposite Hawkeye. This scene scared the surrounding pirates. How did this person get here? Hawkeye stared at Xia Chen opposite him, and his sharp eyes were enough to make anyone who looked at him feel fear, but Xia Chen was not one of them. My Hawk, I want to fight with you. Xia Chen said it concisely and directly. Hawkeye frowned, then said lightly. I'm not interested. I had a lot of fun just now, and now I don't want to fight anymore. And, you're not a swordsman, right? If you're not a swordsman, I can't fight with you. Xia Chen asked back. That's not the case, but I'm really not interested. After saying that, Hawkeye turned around and left, without any intention of fighting with Xia Chen. Xia Chen was immediately anxious when he saw this scene. If Hawkeye left, how could he verify his strength? It won't be easy to find such a strong opponent next time. Suddenly, a good idea came to Xia Chen's mind. My Hawk, wait. Shanks is my uncle, how about you fight me for his sake? Hawkeye turned around after hearing this, stared at Xia Chen and asked uncertainly. You said Shanks is your uncle? Do you have any evidence? Are you familiar with the straw hat on the boy wearing a straw hat over there? That was given to him by Shanks. I used to live in Windmill Village, and Shanks stayed there for a while, and that's when I met him. And he also told me about him and you, otherwise how would I know about your relationship with him? Xia Chen spoke without hesitation, with a firm look on his face, as if what he said was true. However, what Xia Chen said was indeed quite credible, at least Hawkeye believed it at this time. As for the fact that he found out that there was no such thing when he asked Red Hair for confirmation in the future, it was also a matter for the future, and it was none of Xia Chen's business. Sure enough, after listening to Xia Chen's words, Hawkeye stood there and thought for a while, then nodded and said. Since you are Shanks' nephew, I agree to your request, I can fight with you. After that, he pulled out the black knife behind him, instead of using the pocket knife to deal with it. Because he felt a hint of danger from Xia Chen, which was worth his serious attention. Seeing Hawkeye posing in a fighting posture, Xia Chen smiled. Then the iron rod found on the Kuro ship appeared in his hand. As for the other people around at this moment, they were all stunned, including Luffy and others and Zoro who had just been rescued. Especially Luffy, a big question mark appeared on his head at this time. So you didn't let me take action just now, so you were going to do it yourself? Damn Xia Chen, it's really a dog. And everyone else was completely pessimistic about this battle. They all watched the fight between Hawkeye and Zoro just now. The bounty hunter Zoro was beaten by Hawkeye without any chance to fight back. His companion should be in a similar situation. Not to mention Zoro who just regained consciousness. Only then did he truly feel the gap in the world. That was not a force he could match now. Although he thought Xia Chen was also very strong and had never used his true strength in front of him. But he still didn't think Xia Chen could fight Hawkeye, and the situation in the battle might be just a little better than him. At least he still thought so now. Until Xia Chen held the iron rod with one hand, and appeared above Hawkeye's head the next second. The iron rod in his hand smashed down fiercely at Hawkeye. Hawkeye was also unwilling to be outdone, and Hideo Ye chopped up with his backhand, colliding with the iron rod. In an instant, an extremely powerful shock wave came out from the center of the fight between the two. The surrounding waves were directly lifted to a height of dozens of meters, and even formed a small tsunami. Ah! All the people around screamed in fear. Is this really something that humans can do? After the waves subsided, everyone found that they were more than 1,000 meters away from Xia Chen. And because the shock wave was still being released, this distance was even moving away. At this time, the two people in the center of the battlefield looked at each other with different expressions. Hawkeye was very surprised at this time. The young man's power was so strong that even he felt that the knife in his hand was unstable at that moment. And Hawkeye's sight slowly caught a glimpse of the flashing black luster on the iron rod. Armament Haki. It's really rare that he saw this thing in the East China Sea. You know, even in the first half of the Grand Line, only a few people mastered this skill. Only in a place like the New World will this thing become a commonly used skill. So he was still very curious about Xia Chen's ability to master this power now. Xia Chen felt the huge power coming from his hand at this moment, and there was a hint of excitement in his eyes. It's Hawkeye, who took his full strength so easily. You have to know that the power of his full strength stick is very great. Those who can fight against the four emperors are not simple. In this case, he can also use his full strength to play. Xia Chen narrowed his eyes, and then continued to attack Hawkeye. The 6 styles of the ultimate level seemed to have life in his hands, and with the coordination of multiple techniques, he even suppressed Hawkeye. Hawkeye, on the other hand, was a little confused at this time. He had sailed on the sea for many years and of course he could see that Xia Chen was using the 6 styles of the Navy now. And he used it to a very advanced level. But isn't it inappropriate for a pirate like you to use the Navy's stuff so well? Could it be that this person is a spy of the Navy? With this idea, Hawkeye also raised his question. Oh, you're talking about this. Xia Chen started his unfounded compilation again. Again, do you see the Straw Hat Boy over there? His grandfather is Garp, so I learned all the 6 styles from Garp. Navy hero. Garp's grandson. Hawkeye was stunned when he heard this. He didn't expect that the Straw Hat Boy actually had this identity. But he thought of a question when he turned his head. Why is the grandfather a Navy boy, but the grandson wants to be a pirate? Who knows? Xia Chen shrugged. Then he launched a continuous attack on Hawkeye. Every time the two of them collided, a huge shock wave would be generated, and waves would surge one after another. Suddenly, Xia Chen narrowed his eyes, and in an instant he came to Hawkeye and threw the stick in his hand high up. He aimed his fists at Hawkeye. 6 King Spear. The extremely powerful impact force burst out from Xia Chen's fists and rushed towards Hawkeye. Hawkeye directly held the knife horizontally in front of him to block this powerful blow. However, his feet moved back more than 10 meters under this force. There was a hint of excitement in his eyes when he looked at Xia Chen. It was rare to see such a powerful opponent. Then Hawkeye held the knife upright in front of him and chopped it down fiercely. A huge green knife light attacked Xia Chen. I'm going to die. Xia Chen was so scared that his cerebellum was about to shrink when he saw this scene, and he quickly dodged to the side. The knife light rushed straight into the sea. There was no movement. The next second, the sea level began to split in the middle, and a hollow area that stretched for thousands of meters and was hundreds of meters deep appeared on the sea surface. The water did not even flow back for more than 10 seconds, and it surged rapidly until dozens of seconds later. This created several small whirlpools and another powerful wave, pushing Barity further away. Sigui, Xia Chen is so powerful. Luffy said with stars in his eyes. At the same time, there were many people who reacted the same way as Luffy. Everyone was stunned to watch the fight between the two. This. How could there be such a monster in the world? Even Zoro, who was more familiar with Xia Chen, widened his eyes at this time. The power used by Hawkeye in the battle now was much stronger than when he fought him. And Xia Chen was able to fight back and forth with the opponent in this situation. So he has been hiding so deeply all along? Poor Zoro thought that Xia Chen's strength was not much stronger than his, but now it seems. The world is really so far away. Nami was also staring at this scene in a daze, and her heart could not calm down for a long time. She did not expect that Xia Chen, who stayed with her every day, would have such strength. This kind of strength, even. Suddenly, Nami seemed to think of something, and her face suddenly sank. After a long time, she gritted her teeth and made a decision. She had to solve her own problems. Then she sneaked around to the Mary when no one noticed her. At the same time, Click and others were also full of horror. After feeling the power like a god, he felt a little scared. He just seemed to want to kill Hawkeye. Hiss! What kind of desperate idea is this? In an instant, he just wanted to escape from this place quickly, otherwise he would be finished. Thinking of this, he looked at Barady not far away. He needs this ship. So Click waved his hand and said to the many pirate brothers behind him. Little guys, while those two monsters over there are still fighting, let's quickly take this ship. Go. Xia Chen was also scared when he looked at the surging sea water below in the air. Fortunately, he dodged quickly, otherwise he would have been in trouble if he was hit. Just when he was still shocked by the power of Hawkeye's attack, Hawkeye's voice came from below. Boy, don't be dazed. Xia Chen turned his head and saw another huge blade rushing towards him. And this distance at this time did not give him time to dodge. In this case, Xia Chen narrowed his eyes. He clenched the stick in his hands with both hands. He roared thunder. Bagua! Xia Chen swung the stick in his hand violently, colliding with the blade light. Ha! After a few seconds of stalemate, with a loud roar from Xia Chen, the blade light was directly hit into the sky by Xia Chen. As for why Xia Chen used the name of Teacher Kai's moves, I can only say, there is no way. He is a bad namer, and the names he gave are definitely not as impressive as Teacher Kai's moves. Moreover, the mace and the iron rod are both rods, and he can use Teacher Kai's moves with the iron rod. So, Teacher Kai must not say that he copied his moves in the future. Without hesitation, Xia Chen rushed towards Hawkeye again, and the two fought again. After a while, after another collision, the two stood facing each other, and Hawkeye's state also fluctuated a little, panting slightly. On the other hand, Xia Chen on the opposite side looked a little miserable at this time, with countless knife marks on his body and tattered clothes. Blood continued to ooze out of his body, dyeing him into a bloody man. His physical strength had also reached the bottom, and he was gasping for air. Hawkeye looked at Xia Chen and said, "You are already covered in wounds, and your physical strength is running out. Do you want to continue fighting? All over the body?" Xia Chen chuckled. "Are you sure?" As soon as the voice fell, the wounds on Xia Chen's body began to heal at a speed visible to the naked eye. After a while, the small wounds on Xia Chen's body had disappeared, and the larger wounds were only left with some white marks. The recovery ability of animal-type fruits is relatively strong, not to mention his mythical animal-type fruit. To put it bluntly, as long as it is not that kind of particularly big damage, he may recover after fighting. And when his fruit ability is further strengthened in the future, his recovery ability will become stronger. It is even possible to regenerate a broken limb. He is the Monkey King. But now there is a real problem, his physical strength is really running out. This thing will not recover with the passage of time, it will only become less and less. Hawkeye was also surprised when he saw this scene. Is this the ability of the devil fruit? I guess so. Xia Chen nodded. Then he continued. I have one last trick, I want you to teach me. As soon as he finished speaking, Xia Chen used the moon step to fly into the sky. He raised the stick in his hand high, with the armament haki wrapped around it, and at the same time, he poured all his strength into it. Meteor. As Xia Chen spoke, he quickly rushed towards Hawkeye. He continued to use the moon step to accelerate in the air, and when he approached Hawkeye, his speed had reached an unimaginable level. Uncle Kizaru once said that speed is quality. When he arrived in front of Hawkeye, he smashed the stick in his hand hard. Boom! The shock wave that was several times stronger than before spread out again, and even the people who were several kilometers away at this time could clearly feel this shock wave. As expected, another wave of sea waves came towards them. And this time the wave was hundreds of meters high. Luffy, Crick, and others who were fighting looked at this situation with their eyes wide open. Then they stopped fighting instantly and ran to Barity desperately. Now there was only this ship in the sea that could give them a sense of security. As the sound gradually calmed down, the battle between Xia Chen and Hawkeye had already been decided. Xia Chen sat slumped on a floating wooden board, sweat dripping from his forehead. Looking at Hawkeye, who was still panting slightly on the opposite side, he said, "I lost." Xia Chen actually knew about his defeat before the battle began. Although he was strong, he could not say that he could beat a man of Hawkeye's level. So he did not feel any loss about it, and he could also feel that Hawkeye was letting him down. Otherwise, the world's #1 swordsman would not only have this strength. After this battle, he also roughly understood his current level. It was probably about the same as Luffy's strength when he used the Elastic Man of the 4th gear 2 years later. He was very satisfied with this result. After all, how long had it been since he came to the world of One Piece? He had already reached a height that most people could not reach in their lifetime. It would be a bit greedy if he was still not satisfied. Moreover, his strength will not stay at this stage for long. When he checks in on a few more islands, then... A man should be looked at with new eyes after 3 days of absence is really the best description for him. Hawkeye slowly put away his sword and stood up, looking at Xia Chen, who was slumped on the ground with no fluctuations in his eyes, but his heart was very uneasy. This young man is quite strong. The last attack just now even made him feel threatened, and he directly used most of his strength to block it. Originally, he thought that this battle with Xia Chen was just a boring game of instructing children. Unexpectedly, he felt a little excited after a long time. Today's young people are really more powerful than each other. "Boy, what is your dream?" Hawkeye suddenly asked Xia Chen. "My dream?" Xia Chen hesitated for a while, then smiled and said, "I want to live freely on this free sea, do whatever I want according to my own ideas, without any constraints. So that's it, this is not a simple thing." Hawkeye said lightly. Even with his current strength, he will still be subject to some constraints, such as the world government. And what he saw from Xia Chen's eyes was the kind of free will that is completely unconstrained. And this must mean that he will confront the world government. In this case, he... Suddenly, Hawkeye reacted and smiled slightly. "Why does he care so much, young man? Let him do what he wants. What he can't do, maybe Xia Chen can do it." The novel was taken from the Reliz website. Close where you're reading it and support us on our website for more free novels. Hawkeye slowly turned around, stepped on a wooden board, and finally turned to look at Xia Chen. "Young man, don't give up your dream, stick to it." "I will," Xia Chen said with a mouthful of white teeth. After getting the answer, Hawkeye drew out his black knife again, and then slashed it forward fiercely. Then the wooden board under his feet began to speed towards his boat, which was washed away to an unknown distance. Looking at the black dot gradually disappearing in the distance, Xia Chen also smiled. What a pleasant battle! After more than 10 minutes, Xia Chen, who had recovered his strength, slowly stood up. He looked around. When he found that Barity, which was almost a small black dot in the distance, suddenly slapped his head and quickly flew into the sky. He kept using the moon step to rush there. Damn it, I forgot about it while fighting. Fortunately, I can still see the shadow of the boat now, otherwise I would be finished if I couldn't find the boat. He can't recognize the direction towards. After a while, when Xia Chen came to Baradi, he found that this place had also suffered some degree of damage. The two raised fin boards were broken into pieces. Then he looked at Luffy who was sleeping soundly on the ground and Crick who was lying on the ground. Xia Chen immediately understood what happened here. At the same time, under Xia Chen's perception of observation, everyone except Luffy was gone. He understood in his heart that Nami had made the same decision. Obviously, just tell them to go back with her. Can't a person like Arlong be killed easily? He has to take it all on his own, what a fool. But now that things have come to this, there is no point in thinking so much. Let's deal with the current things first. Xia Chen slowly fell to the ground, and the pirates and other people around him immediately moved away from him. This made him look black. Did he look so scary? But the people around him didn't think so. Due to their limited knowledge, they just saw such a powerful battle. Their worldview was shattered directly. In their eyes, Xia Chen is now the strongest person in the world, with the power to destroy the world. It would be strange if they were not afraid. In this case, the next thing is much simpler. Under Xia Chen's powerful power, the pirates ran very fast, grabbing the nearby wooden boards and drifting away. But they also have some conscience and did not forget Crick. They also took him along. The battle also ended here. Xia Chen turned to look at the chefs and asked, "Are you still open now? I'm a little hungry." "Open." Half a day later. Therefore, I guess Nami's destination is Arlong Paradise. Joseph said affirmatively. Okay, since we know Nami's destination, let's go find her. Luffy shouted on the side. Then, let's set off right away without further delay. Xia Chen also said calmly. Who knows what will happen if we wait any longer? Yoshi, let's go. As soon as Xia Chen and others walked out of the cabin, they saw Sanji waiting outside. He said pretentiously with a cigarette in his mouth. Let me accompany you to go and have a try. Luffy's expression was dull at first, then he suddenly became ecstatic. Really, really? Are you really willing to be our partner? Ah, it's true. Ah ha ha ha, that's great. Then Sanji and Luffy came to the boat, and a voice came from behind just before they were about to board the boat. Don't catch a cold. Instantly, Sanji's eyes were filled with tears, and the tears kept flowing down. He turned his head and knelt directly to Zeph on the second floor. I will never forget your great kindness in my life. Zeph also had tears in his eyes after hearing this. Go. Go and pursue your dream. After a while, on the sea to Kakozia village, a small boat was sailing. The 4 people on the boat were enjoying the food leisurely at this time. Xia Chen took a bite of meat and a sip of red wine, and couldn't help but sigh. This is life. What a miserable life it was when there were no chefs before. Although he could bring a lot of meat directly due to the existence of the system space. But those would get boring after eating for a long time. How could there be a customized service like Sanji now? Hey, compared to cooking for you, I would rather cook for Miss Nami. I'm so happy to think that I can see Miss Nami later. Sanji couldn't stop imagining beside him. Just then, they suddenly felt the ship start to shake. Hey? What's wrong? Luffy asked in confusion. The next second, a huge monster broke out of the sea and stared at everyone on the ship. This. Why does this kind of monster appear in the East China Sea? Isn't this something that only exists in the Grand Line? Joseph said in horror, holding his head. Oh, it's really big, this manatee. Xia Chen raised his eyebrows and said. Stupid, how can a cow be in the sea? This is a hippopotamus. Sanji retorted. Does your hippopotamus have horns? Well, now that you mention it. Don't, stop talking, big brother, it's going to attack us. Joseph shouted at the manatee in front of him. Don't worry, don't worry. I was just worried that the boat was too slow, now there is a way. Xia Chen waved his hand, and then rushed towards the manatee with his domineering aura. In an instant, the manatee was stunned in place, looking at Xia Chen, who was sitting leisurely on the stool with a very horrified expression. He didn't dare to make any moves at all. Then the next thing will be easy. Brave cow, don't be afraid of difficulties, charge. Xia Chen and Luffy shouted together at the bow, with the manatee tied with a rope in front of them. Oh, so fast. Just keep going all the way to Arlong Paradise. Not long after, they saw an island in the distance. If nothing goes wrong, it is the island where Kokozia village is located, and it is also where Arlong Paradise is located. But things are not always so smooth. Hey, 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 stupid manatee, stop. Looking at the manatee about to hit the wall, Sanji shouted with an ugly face. But Xia Chen and Luffy next to him seemed to have no idea, and still shouted. Go! Go for it, go! But no matter how Sanji shouted, the manatee still hit it. Then, why do we feel like we are flying in the sky? Luffy tilted his head in confusion. Please remove the word like. Ding! Check in Kokozia village successfully, the fruit ability is upgraded to intermediate level, and the fire eyes are obtained. Instantly, Xia Chen felt a stinging pain in his eyes, which made him cover his eyes and sit on the stool unconsciously. Xia Chen, what's wrong with you? Luffy couldn't help asking when he saw Xia Chen's abnormality. It's okay, my eyes just hurt a little. After a while, when the ship slowly stopped on land, the stinging in Xia Chen's eyes gradually dissipated. What are you doing, you bastards? Zoro's exasperated voice came. Oh, Zoro, what are you doing here? While several people were chattering around, Xia Chen was feeling the changes in his eyes. When Xia Chen slowly opened his eyes, if someone saw him at this time, they would find that his pupils had turned golden. Flashing with brilliance, the whole person looked more handsome. Of course, the biggest change is definitely not the change in appearance. Xia Chen cast his eyes on Luffy and others on the side. He found that his eyes gradually passed through their clothes, and then saw Xiao Kunkan? Oh, no, it's their blood flow. Now they seem to bite is the kind of human appearance made up of blood and qi. By observing the flow of blood and qi, Xia Chen can keenly find out where they are injured and which part of their body will cause more power if attacked. To put it simply, it is equivalent to a weakness detector. And not only that, his eyes can even emit powerful energy rays like Superman in Marvel. The power is extremely powerful. Xia Chen really loves this ability, it's so cool. Just when Xia Chen thought that this time of punching in was over, a voice came from his mind again. Ding! Punch in Kokozia village successfully, get. Ding! 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 There is a bug in the system, it is being repaired. Can't be repaired. The demonized form of the Monkey King fruit has been issued. Attention, attention, the demonized form is extremely unstable, the host needs. Xia Chen was confused by this series of prompt sounds, but when he heard that the bug could not be fixed and he got another reward, he was instantly excited. Is this a pie in the sky? Can we give him a few more bugs like this? And this demonization sounds awesome. Just when he wanted to learn more about the newly acquired demonization, the system prompted that the demonization was unstable. But before he could continue to understand, he felt a sudden killing intent filling his mind. In an instant, Xia Chen fell down on the spot. He held his head and rolled around on the deck. At this time, the few people who heard the noise also turned their eyes to Xia Chen. When they saw Xia Chen rolling on the ground, they all showed a look of horror. Luffy hurried over, helped Xia Chen up and asked. Xia Chen, what's wrong with you? The rest of the people also rushed over to look at Xia Chen with a hideous face. What's going on? Sanji asked stutteringly. Zoro didn't say anything, but his expression was the same as Sanji's. They were the ones who had seen Xia Chen and Hawkeye fight, and they knew that Xia Chen was extremely powerful, much stronger than them. But now, even a strong man like Xia Chen was running away with his head in his hands, rolling around with a hideous face. What happened? Suddenly, Xia Chen opened his eyes, and the original pair of golden pupils disappeared, replaced by a pair of blood pupils. Instantly, a strong killing intent enveloped the surroundings, making everyone feel a chill in their hearts. Luffy looked a little anxious and couldn't help shouting. Xia Chen! Xia Chen's eyes instantly looked at him. At this moment, Luffy felt as if he was facing the god of death, and the strong pressure instantly made his back wet. Xia Chen said to everyone in a trembling voice. You guys go find Nami and the others quickly, let me take a break by myself. Xia Chen's mind was full of violent killing intent at this time, which gradually devoured his reason. Just now, he even had the idea of killing everyone here, but fortunately he temporarily suppressed this killing intent with his strong willpower. Otherwise, everyone here would suffer. But he was not sure how long he could suppress this killing intent, so he was so eager to let them go first. But, Luffy wanted to say something but was interrupted by Xia Chen. Go. After a moment of silence, Luffy slowly stood up and said, I know. Then he said, Zoro, Sanji, Joseph, let's go. After that, Luffy jumped off the boat and walked in a certain direction. Zoro and others followed Luffy after looking at Xia Chen. There must be a reason why Xia Chen let them go. Just as Luffy believed in Xia Chen, he also believed that Xia Chen would handle it. He is such a strong man. After everyone left, Xia Chen felt that his consciousness was getting less and less clear. If this continued, he would definitely lose control and kill everyone. Thinking of this, Xia Chen rushed directly to the seaside, and at the same time did not forget to spray the system. Damn system, what a garbage bug! After reaching the seaside, Xia Chen plunged directly into the sea. The moment he entered the sea, his killing intent was completely out of control. Both pupils were filled with tyrannical killing intent, and at the same time, the body also underwent a huge change. The clothes on his body turned into flowing black at this moment. Just like Luffy's clothes turned white after he transformed into Nika. At the same time, a black flame appeared behind Xia Chen and surrounded him, and it was not extinguished even in the sea. The hair color also changed from the original black to bloody. The whole person looked like a demon from hell. At this time, there were many sea beasts around who didn't know how to live or die and swam over after hearing the noise. Xia Chen looked at them with murderous eyes, full of tyrannical killing intent. Next, there was a violent massacre. At the same time, everyone on Luffy's side fell into silence. They had just had a quarrel with Nami and met Johnny, who also told them that Nami killed Usopp. So now the scene was in a dull atmosphere. Until... Why are you here? Hearing the familiar voice, everyone looked over and showed a surprised expression. Usopp? After a while. So, you mean Nami stabbed herself to save you? Zoro asked. Yes. Usopp nodded. Then the atmosphere at the scene was silent for a few seconds, and Luffy stood up and said. Since this is the case, then, let's go and take back our navigator. Understood. Captain. Zoro smiled. Then the group walked towards the direction of Arlong Paradise. At this time, Nami was sitting on the ground, her eyes full of helplessness and despair. She couldn't stop the determination of the villagers to attack Arlong no matter what. They didn't want her to bear all this again. Obviously she was willing to say it herself. When she thought that the villagers in the village would eventually die in Arlong's hands, Nami completely collapsed. picked up the knife in her hand and kept stabbing at the Arlong pirate's tattoo on her arm. There was a desperate roar in her mouth. Ah! Ah! Suddenly, Nami found that her arm was caught by something and she couldn't move. She looked back. She saw a completely different Xia Chen holding her arm and looking at her, with no emotion in his blood-red eyes. Looking at Xia Chen, who was completely different except for his appearance and body shape, Nami was stunned and asked stupidly. Xia Chen, what's wrong with you? How did you become like this? Nothing, some stupid thing had some problems, so now there is a little trouble. Even though Nami was familiar with Xia Chen's way of speaking, she felt that Xia Chen was very strange at this moment. It was because Xia Chen's tone was extremely cold, and there was no longer the feeling before. Suddenly, Xia Chen squatted down and hugged her in his arms. Don't worry, I'm here. Nami. Arlong's existence has made you suffer all the time, and you have lost your happiness at the best age. But such days will not exist in the future. I will solve everything. After saying that, Xia Chen slowly stood up and turned his head. Be a good navigator of our pirate group, you can't escape. After saying that, Xia Chen soared into the sky and flew rapidly towards Arlong Paradise. Nami looked at Xia Chen who was getting farther and farther away, and the tears in her eyes could no longer be held back like a dam bursting. She murmured. Thank you, Xia Chen. At the same time, an inexplicable feeling was growing in her heart. Hey, Nami! You are here! Suddenly, Nami heard a voice coming from behind and turned her head to look. A smile appeared on her lips the moment she saw Luffy and others. She has now faced her heart and will never lose this hard-earned friendship again. And she knows Xia Chen. If he says he can solve it, he will definitely solve it. So. Nami waved to everyone and said, Everyone, I'm here. Looking at the smile on Nami's face, everyone was stunned. Wasn't she frowning just now? Why is it like this now? Without thinking too much, Luffy ran over and said to Nami. Nami, let's go and beat Arlong together. Kokozia village is free. No need. Nami shook her head and said. Hey? Why? Xia Chen has passed. When Luffy first heard Nami's words, he was about to ask why, but when he heard the next sentence, he held back his words. Xia Chen went? That's great, he will definitely be able to solve it if he goes. Luffy said happily. In his opinion, Xia Chen is so strong that as long as he goes, any fishman here will definitely not be his opponent. But... You said Xia Chen went? Zoro asked with a somewhat ugly face. Yes, what's wrong? Nami was a little confused. Is there any problem with Xia Chen going there? Zoro's face changed several times, and finally said slowly. I think Xia Chen's current state is not right. Just now when he was on the boat, he suddenly hugged his head and ran around. At the same time, the moment he opened his eyes, I felt an unprecedented strong killing intent. So something must have happened to him. Did you find something different about him just now? Now that you say that. Thank you for choosing Fanfiction Uploads. We hope you enjoyed this journey into anime and fanfiction. The adventure continues, so stay tuned. Your feedback matters to us. Leave a comment with your favorite stories, suggestions, or your own fanfiction ideas. We love hearing from you. Hit subscribe and ring the notification bell to never miss an upload. Share our channel with friends and fellow anime lovers. Thank you for being part of our community. Until next time, keep dreaming, listening, and keeping the anime spirit alive. See you in the next episode.